All right, looks like you guys are live. So this is CrossCode version NMG being running by the god himself, Symphonian. Good luck to you,
Thanks, man.
and may RNG ever be in your favor.
I hope so. I've been trying to iron out the RNG parts in this run. Seems to be gotten consistent, so this run should go extremely well. Alright. So, my name is Symphonian, and I'm joined together with Torts, who's doing commentary with me.
Good morning, afternoon, evening to everyone, wherever you are. My name is Tortalius, Tort, Chell, whatever you want to call me. I'll be doing the commentary for Sim's run here. CrossCode is a very busy game, so he gets an opportunity to focus, and I get an opportunity to tell you guys about how wonderful and amazing both the game is and the run is. So when we get the green light, we get started.
Alright, so the run begins on new game, so countdown will be on 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go.
Alright, so the beginning of the game, we're playing as somebody who's not our main character, Leah, and we don't care about her right now. So I'm going to explain to you guys the basics of how this game plays. So CrossCode is an action-adventure game. From this perspective, it looks very similar to The Legend of Zelda, and a lot of the run can be thought of as sort of a Zelda game with more complicated combat and puzzles. So in the beginning, for the sake of lore and what's going on, the game takes place in another game called CrossWorld. And CrossWorld is an MMORPG, massively multiplayer online role-playing game, except it's not actually a virtual game. It all takes place on a moon in some galaxy far, far away, and they use some sci-fi technology to make it all work. Don't ask questions. So the big first mode of interaction we have with the world is the throwing of balls. And in the first tutorial zone you're going to see, Leah's going to be able to throw balls as 4 targets. We can throw balls in any direction. They never drop to the ground. They just go in a straight line. We can also hold and charge up the shot, and it will bounce off walls about 4 times, which allows us to hit switches and otherwise solve puzzles. Leah can jump through the air, and the way she does that is just running to the edge of a cliff. She can't just jump into place. So what Synth is doing, as you can see, is we're taking charge shots to either bounce off walls or just shooting switches. We're going to be doing a lot of that over the course of the run. The next mode of interaction we are going to have is dodging, which Synth is going to unlock right after this room. And dodging is going to be our main form of movement. We can dash up to 3 times, dash/dodge 3 times in a row. After we do 3 of them, we basically spin out, and we have to wait at least a frame or so in between. Otherwise, we get these very small, very slow spins. Beyond that, we're also going to have the ability to use melee attacks, which we'll get to in a minute, and guarding. And we're going to combine the guarding and the dashing together as our main mode of transportation once we unlock that. So in this current room, Sim's entire goal is to kill each of these little cute rat bots as part of the tutorial. The rat bots move completely randomly, so you notice Sim was basically trying to get sort of up in their faces and take them down. With respect to these type of rooms, you can see we have a blue barrier on both sides, and we have little numbers in the center. These are the type of rooms in which a certain number of enemies are going to spawn, and we can't leave until they're all dead. We're going to see a lot of these rooms throughout the run. Most rooms in each of the dungeons and areas are going to be separated into sections where we have puzzles and sections where we have to go through as many enemies as possible. So now we have our melee attack, and the melee attack is a 5-hit combo. Leah will slash 4 times and then spin around and hit once more. At the end of that combo, or at any point really during it, we can cancel it by dashing. We can dash out of pretty much anything in this game, which we'll use to dodge things, but also to avoid the end animations on anything. So currently we're on the ship called the MS Solar. And as I said, this game takes place in quote-unquote the real world, which means that someone needs to maintain it. And the maintenance crew on this boat is that crew. And we, Leah, our blue-haired girl, have been woken up by a man named Sergey who says we're an amnesiac. We don't remember anything other than our name, so that seems about right. And that if we play the game, we will hopefully remember who we are. And Leah sees no reason to disagree with the nice man talking to her through a screen, so she decides to play through the game. So along the way, we are being introduced to all of the members of the MS Solar, who have a couple tasks for us. In this case, we can see that Leah can jump between platforms. The little boxes there that had metal on the sides are boxes can only break from one side. We're gonna have a lot of enemies like that in the game. And the leader of the MS Solar is Jet, the man with a jetpack, which is very aptly named. So now we're going to be introduced to the first, the fact that we can keep our charge shot and dodge, very useful. And then we're going to be introduced to our block mechanic. And blocking in this game is done by simply holding the guard button, like this. And then you basically take minimal damage and don't get pushed back as bad. The other thing you can do with the guard mechanic is perfect guard. And perfect guarding is done by pressing the guard button a couple of frames before you get hit by the attack. If you perfect guard, you take no damage, and in a lot of cases, enemies are stunned or repelled in some form, which is very useful because that makes them vulnerable. Additional way to make them vulnerable. Sometimes they're vulnerable for other reasons. So now we're up to the first boss, which is the massively massive crab. I forget its exact name. It's a giant enemy crab. It has a box on its head. So the crab will jump around for a while and eventually show its center core. Simp is going to do that combo I talked about, 5 hits, and then dashing to cancel. The way he's able to make it look like he can do it the combo back to back to back to back is when he dodges, he is dodging into the actual crystal, so he's not moving anywhere. And then he can immediately start doing the combo again. And you're going to see him do that time and time again against any boss we can touch without taking damage, which is a surprising number of them. The other thing he's doing against this boss is it charges up its repelling attack. As you notice, it has 3 health bars. When we got through each of those health bars, the boss wants to knock us off it so it can go to its next phase. Simp is dashing away from it to avoid the explosion and immediately going back in to try to get extra hits in. Some bosses don't gain any sort of damage resistance during their animation between phases of fights. And we're going to take advantage of that in a lot of ways later in the game. So our big villain so far is that strange guy in orange clothes. Considering he summoned a giant crab, he seems a little dangerous. And now he's summoning these enemies called shredders. They will one-shot us, so we have to get out of here. So like I said earlier, Leah can only dash 3 times before she spins out. You'll notice Synth is definitely dashing more than 3 times. The reason and way he's pulling that off is using a trick we call infinite dashing, which is he's holding the guard button down while he dashes. And what he does is as soon as he's dashed a 3rd time, he lets go of the dashing, he stops pressing the dashing button long enough for Leah's shield to actually appear. And as soon as that shield's appeared, the game goes, okay, you've waited long enough between dashes, I'm going to reset the 3-dash cycle now. So long as you see that shield pop up within 3 dashes, you get 3 more dashes. If we ever don't wait long enough, you'll see Leah dash out. So here, we're doing the major speed trick of the run, which is called long jumping. And the way a long jump works is that Leah will jump off a platform. The moment she jumps off the platform, Synth is going to press the melee attack button. So you can do this with guarding, aiming, lots of other things. As soon as he does that, he's going to press dash. And what this does is allows Leah to basically just start dashing in the air, which is normally not possible. But because she's dashing in the air, she moves at dash speed, and that's a lot faster than running. If you press the dash button twice in quick succession, you'll dash twice, which is what we call a double long jump. The big thing about it is that you have to press the dash button quick enough, otherwise it doesn't work. Nicely done. That is one of the hardest jumps in the entire game. And he only has 1 shot to do it because of the way the platform cycle works. So you saw, as soon as he got into the air, he presses melee, he presses dash immediately, pressed it twice, and he landed on a platform, and did it again. Your frame window for a double long jump is very slim. Your frame window for a single long jump is very generous. So if you start learning this run yourself, you'll learn the singles first, and you'll see they're not so bad. Then you'll try to learn the doubles, and then it's just going to take a bunch of time. So now we've unlocked access to the menu. We can equip items in this game. One of the big things about the routing is we need to make sure we have good enough offensive gear to actually deal damage to enemies, because we are not going to fight almost anything that the game doesn't require us to fight to beat the story. So, we need to make sure we keep our gear up to date. And luckily, the game gives us plenty of good enough gear where we can do plenty of damage. We're actually not going to be damage starved after the next boss fight. well, after the second boss from now, by the time we make it to the first dungeon, well, I guess the second dungeon, this is the first one, we'll no longer be damage starved for the rest of the game. Until then, though, it's a little dicier. So we're coming up on the second boss. This is the giant turret. I don't know its name. So Sim's just going to basically get up in his face, do his combo, and right before it shoots, he's going to try to dash and block. If not, he's just going to take minor damage. It's not a big deal. After we complete the first phase, the boss actually goes in the middle of the platform, but you can ride out with it, continue the cycle. It has an attack where it's going to try to kill everyone in front of it, but we're behind it. It doesn't work so well. The turret isn't completely dumb. It will turn to face us, but we've already been able to break it since it put up shields that you're supposed to deal with those switches on the side. And also it does the attack where it's trying to kill everyone in front of it, and again, we're behind. That's the fastest way to deal with him. If you fall off that platform, you can just jump back up there where he is. There's even an NPC in the next area who tells you that that's the strategy he uses to kill it. So totally intended, just not necessarily obvious. So this is the circuitry. It might look familiar to people who play Final Fantasy X or other games in a sphere grid type system. Every level up, Leah gets 1 point, and those points are then put on that grid to learn new abilities. We can learn arts, which are active skills, and then plenty of passives, such as attack up, defense up, and then more interesting things like regeneration or enhanced buff duration, stuff like that. So in this case, we pick up Spear Saw, which is the first skill we're going to use in the game. And in order to use skills, we need to use SP. And SP is in the top left corner of the screen. You see we have 1 of it right now. At this point in the game, we generate up to 1 SP naturally, and by attacking enemies, we can build up to 4 of it. Outside of combat, we'll reduce it down to 1. For this part of the game, the 1 point we have is good enough. But later parts of the game, we're going to have to do some farming of SP here and there to try to prepare for fights. So at this point, we've made it to the main land of the game, Crossworld, and we're told that the big story is that the ancients laid a track down, and if we all get enough seekers, which are basically player characters, to go across this track, which is basically doing all of the dungeons, we'll find out why they made it. And our 2 characters here, Leah, and the orange girl, Emily, who's now her friend, and to be best friend, because Emily is best, they're like, all right, let's play the game, because, Crossworld, it's a video game, let's play it. Our other character, you saw Mr. Greenhair, who hopped in and hopped out, is Apollo. Apollo thinks Leah's cheating. And he believes that's simply because she showed up at the tutorial dungeon at level 2 instead of level 1, because the giant enemy crab gave us a level. So he's convinced that we're a cheater. So we're going to go cheat and beat him up. But I'll get to that in a second. This is the first area of the game, Autumn's Rise, which Simp is traversing, as we said earlier, with the infinite dashes, 3 dashes and a guard. And across this area, you can see all sorts of enemies. These little hedgehogs, the hillcats are the guys who are wearing little headphones on their head, and we see buffalo. We're ignoring all of these enemies because we don't actually need their experience, but we're going to run into much harder versions of them later, and I'll talk about what they are then. So we're going to go collect our first piece of equipment in the run that wasn't just handed to us, which is the assault vest. The assault vest is something we're going to wear up until almost the end of the game, because it's one of the very few body pieces that gives offensive stats, and we are offensively statted starved at this point. Remember, we have no gear. However, we have picked up some items, consumables, and in this game you can eat food to heal or buff yourself with a short cooldown between using of items. So we're going to go eat a attack up item now, and then we're going to go fight Apollo in a PvP fight to settle the cheater allegation. You can't eat food during PvP fights, so we cheat by eating food before the PvP fight. So Apollo's totally right that we're cheating, but we're going to beat him up anyway. So the way the Apollo fight works is Simp is either going to wait for him to try to melee him, in which case we perfect guard, and then we do a combo of 3 hits, cancel the combo, and do the 5 hits into Spear Saw. Or we dash at his face, and we try to Spear Saw him. So you can see there's the 5-hit combo plus Saw. Or if he doesn't want to actually melee us, you see that Simp's just dashing at his face to saw him. When Simp dashes at his face, there's a chance that Apollo runs away because he's in ranged form and wants to throw his own balls. So Simp is waiting to quickly see, is Apollo going to dash away from me? If so, he's going to dash cancel his Spear Saw, so he doesn't actually lose the SP. That way, he still has it available for further ones. The other big thing about Spear Saw is it actually interrupts enemies when you use it. They're sort of stunned during that animation. And we're going to take advantage of that in a little while to deal with little enemies who have long-ass animations. And we're just going to use that to quickly cancel them if they're stunned. So you don't actually have to win this fight to continue with the game. You can lose it. It's the first person to win 5 out of 7. And however, if you win all 5 bouts against Apollo, you gain more experience than if you lose. In this case, we're going to gain 2 levels off that, which is really nice because we don't have a lot of stats. Nope, that was Apollo 1. At this point, Simp is going to collect a couple of items because we need some money to buy better weapons. He's going to pick up those veggie burgers. We're going to sell those. Those have no other value. And now he's going to collect some item called blazing buns. So earlier, we picked up some spicy buns in Rookie Harbor, and those add 10% to our attack for about 90 seconds, I think it is. The blazing buns he just picked up are 20% for 2 minutes, if I'm remembering correctly. He's also about to go pick up some cheese crackers, so we will have burgers and crackers. And those crackers increase our focus. Focus is a stat that does a hodgepodge of things. It increases your crit rate, the amount of frames you're invulnerable for during dashing. I believe it also does a couple of other things. For our purposes, it's an enhanced crit rate. We are going to be using those blazing buns and those cheese crackers in about an hour, so much later in the game. So I'll remind you about this weekend. So currently we are heading towards Bergen, where the first dungeon in the game, the Temple Mines, is located, up in the snowy north. The idea behind the mines is that a bunch of miners were trying to get some cool ore, but they stumbled upon an ancient temple in there, and the temple activated itself and decided, I'm going to reclaim these mines, thanks. And of course we discovered that all these temples are part of the Track of the Ancients, and that seems important to everybody. So the mining operations have been ceased, and now you have this hybrid mine-temple thing going on. So Simp uses, you saw some long jumps to get up to that platform to bypass part of the puzzle. He picks up our first weapon upgrade, which is the Iron Edge. Or I'm sorry, not the Iron Edge.
Rock Splitter, my friends.
Ox Splitter, thank you. He's also going to go buy our, I believe, an Iron Edge. So we have 2 upgraded weapons instead of our little level 1 stuff. He's going to sell the items we picked up earlier to get those. He's also going to do our next menu of the run, where he equips the things and learns Ball of Steel. Ball of Steel is our first ranged art. So all Ball of Steel does is throw a giant ball. Pretty self-explanatory. What makes Ball of Steel very good, there's several things. One, it comes out instantly. Instead of having this slight period of time where Simp has to charge up a shot before you can throw it so it'll bounce off things, a Ball of Steel just goes. That also means that if we want to hit something without having to wait for the crosshair to actually focus up on us, we can use the ball. And we're going to use that for a puzzle or 2 in the dungeon. It's also useful because sometimes you want to kill things at a distance, and it does a lot of damage. Now we're going to be introduced to some new friends. Our man in green is Schneider. Schneider and Emily are buddies, and Schneider's part of a guild called the First Scholars. The First Scholars are big lore people, very interested in the lore of Crossworlds, and they say that Emily and Leah are welcome to join once they complete the first dungeon and learn some lore and answer a quiz. And we say, sure, sounds like fun. So now we're in the first dungeon of the game, the Temple Mines. This is the second one of the harder jumps in the game. Simp is using the backup strat because it's just easier than trying that double long jump from that platform to the center.
Saves me some embarrassment from failing it over and over as well.
It's a really tight jump, and the backup strat costs like 4 or 5 seconds or something, maybe less. So here we have our first real puzzle room. What we need to do is make sure that we throw a ball that banks off each of those diagonal banks. And the blocks with the little arrow bubbles on top, which I'm just going to refer to as arrow bubbles. The arrow bubbles, if the ball hits them, it immediately goes in the direction that the ball is, that the arrows are telling it. So we're going to have a lot of puzzles in this game where we're going to need to set up those types of arrow bubbles. We have our first new enemy. I don't know what they're called, but we're going to call them Robo-Miner dudes.
Their official names are Karatex.
Okay. So the Robo-Miner dudes, their shtick is that they try to dash at us or jump at us. If they jump at us, we have to try to stun them out of their animation because they don't get vulnerable during that animation at all. If they dash at us, we just have to get past them. And if we get past them, they turn red, and if we hit them again, they'll break. And break just means they take extra damage and they don't do anything. These guys, by contrast, break if we throw a explosive at them, and we have a convenient mine for that. the Sims hit the mine and then hit it with a charged shot or a ball of steel, and then detonate the mine immediately. Otherwise, you have to wait for it to tick down, and by then the guy could have moved. Those guys are super annoying because they have the ability to go into these very long animations of shooting fire, and we can't really do much about that, so our goal is just to hit them with the mine as soon as possible. The other new enemy in here are bugs. Bugs are creepy and crawly and everywhere, and Emily hates them. We don't do much damage to these bugs, so instead we're going to try to hit them with the mine. Very nice. So we can get a key. And then we'll blow up the mine that was supposed to let us get in there on the way out. Saves a couple seconds to get back. So the next section of the mine is going north. We're going to have a elevator platform. And coming up in this next room is going to be... Simp is going to try to one-cycle this next room by using ball of steel to hit a mine onto a platform immediately. Barely made it. And that mine will detonate there. If you don't do it that way, it takes too long to actually charge up your shot for that. So you have the ball of steel. And you notice when we actually set up a... when you use a skill in this game, time slows down. But time doesn't actually stop. It just gets very slow. And the big thing about that is the amount of time we have to throw that ball of steel is less than the slowdown. That's how tight that time is. Tim's going to go for a tight double jump there. Very nice. That saves about 20 seconds or something. It takes a lot of time, and that jump is very hard. It's probably the second or third hardest jump in the game. So we have our next set of robo guys here. The only way to break these guys is hit them from the back. Once they're broken, they take actual damage. They have a couple of patterns. One is they shoot ice. Great, we can hit their back. Nice and easy. The other thing they can do is dash at our face. If they dash at us, we can't actually get behind them until they dash. And you can't block their dash. And if you try to dash around, guard around them, then they'll just keep going for a while. And if they bonk a wall, they don't care. So the fastest way to deal with them is just to get hit when they dash at you. And you can't take more than 2 hits. The other thing they can do is slam the ground and make rocks like you saw, and that gives us an opportunity to hit them from behind, except the rocks interrupt us out of things constantly and can kill you if you're not paying attention. So we really want them just to spit ice. In this room, as you can see, now we have mines available. Simp's goal is just to shoot the mine back, have the guy go past him, and then very easily take him down. The LC is just one of the spicy buns in this room, just having extra damage. The next fight's going to be now against 2 of those same guys, but now we've got ice in the way. And the enemies will slide on ice just in the same way we slide on ice. So you have to be a little bit careful that you get around them fast, because if you don't get around them quick enough, they'll bonk into a wall, and they don't get vulnerable to bonk. The other big thing about this dungeon, as you can see, ice physics. Ice physics are great. Everybody loves ice dungeons. More developers should make entire dungeons out of ice. Sorry, I'm getting a report. That's completely wrong. Everybody hates ice. Sorry. So the ice physics in this game actually aren't that bad because we have access to dashing, which will take whatever direction we're going and allow us to turn on a dime. Yeah, we're going to go sliding in the direction we just dashed, but at least we can turn around really quickly if it looks like we're about to get ourselves killed. So when I was talking earlier about using spear saw to interrupt an enemy, this is the guy I'm talking about in particular. So he has a pattern in which he is going to give us a mine, shoot fire, do a fire spin, throw fire some more, land, and shoot a mine. If he goes for the fire spin, we have to wait for him to just sit there and spin for a while, and it's slow and boring, and nobody wants that. So Simp uses spear saw immediately to interrupt him. And then he immediately interrupts his spear saw because he doesn't want to wait for the whole animation to finish. And then the goal is to blow up that last mine on the enemy so he dies at the same time because you can't open treasure chests in combat. So, very nicely done. So in this room, what you're supposed to do is throw your balls through the fire globes and use those to melt stuff. Or you can use a long jump. You're going to know we do that a lot. Yeah, it's the other big mechanic here. We melt stuff. So these enemies, we've seen them before. But one thing you haven't maybe noticed is that when they actually get blown up and break, they fall to the ground. And enemies in this game will take falling damage as when they fall into the abyss, just like Leah does. I think it's 10% of their max health. So that's nice. This next room is full of bugs. Bugs are icky and gross, and we're going to light them on fire. So if we don't use these fire globes, the bugs die. It's so incredibly slow. The big problem with the bugs is that they like to move around incredibly erratic, which means we can't always hit them before they start doing their dash. We can only take 2 dashes to the face from the bugs before we die. So you'll note that if any bug tries to dash, what Synth is going to do if we can't kill it in time is try to perfect guard it. Because even if we guard, we can only take, I think, 4 or 5 guards. And if he misses 1 guard and gets hit, it gets that fast. So now we've gotten 3 keys, and that's going to enable us to go to the mini boss of this dungeon. He's got a name, but I'm just going to call him the Heat Boss. The Heat Boss is very cold. A bunch of bugs are going to make him able to summon ice, and we're going to use fire in order to break him. Once he's broken, he's going to have his ice bugs pop out, and we're going to light him on fire to get rid of him. So our big goal for this boss is to get him near broken. Synth is then going to do as much damage to him as he can when he summons his new bugs, and try to re-break him before he can summon the bugs onto himself.
That was real close.
Now there is a strategy that allows you to kill him without seeing that second set of bugs. But the reason we don't use it, even though it would technically be a little bit quicker, is when the boss dies, we get the experience for the boss, and then we get the experience for the bugs that he summoned. And if he doesn't summon a second set of bugs, we get fewer experience points, and we'll be actually behind a level for a majority of the run. Because experience in this game is 1,000 points to a level, and it scales with your level. So lower level enemies start getting less and less experience as time goes on. So it's not as if we can say, oh, I lost 200 experience, but later I'm getting 10,000 in kills. So now Synth has access to the fire power, known as heat. And the way elements work in this game is whenever you switch to an element and use it for a while, you start building up an elemental overload gauge. And you'll notice the overload gauge by the screen getting yellower and a yellow gauge filling up over the top left corner where you see the little fire icon. And if you overload, what happens is you become unable to switch elements for several seconds while the gauge goes away. So we're going to try to avoid that at all costs. The other thing is that each element that we pick up has its own skill tree and its own stats in its own skill. So the stats that you picked up in the fire tree will not apply to any other element we pick up at any point in the game. However, the neutral stats that we pick up from the very small neutral tree, half of those stats are going to be applied to each element we're in. So those stats, in a sense, count doubles since they count for everything. But the fire stats only count for one. In fire, we have 2 abilities. We picked up Flame Jab, which is where these nice little cone of flames in front of him. And then Burn, which is basically a flamethrower. The flamethrower ability is very useful for breaking enemies, and you saw Synth just basically blow fire on that guy's butt to break him immediately, which is much faster than trying to combo him with Spear Saw. We also, since we have the access to fire, a lot of the enemies in this dungeon are weak to fire, so that speeds things up. So now we have our sliding block puzzle. See if you can figure out the proper solution to this puzzle before Synth does it. You're running out of time. Okay, I hope you solved it because he's basically done. So what we have to do is set up 3 blocks at the bottom to make a staircase, and then we can use that to shoot a block across. In this next room, what you're supposed to do is ride this elevator along, and then use it to hit this block in the center across till it hits a button. Alternatively, you can use a lot of physics, like this, and save several seconds by bank shotting all over the damn place. Or you can also lose several seconds by missing the bank shots. It's kind of your choice.
It wasn't much of a choice for me, my friends.
So now we're going to have our next fight with a bunch of bugs. But this time we are armed with fire, and fire burns. So we are going to get rid of these bugs much more easily. Keep an eye on the overload gauge in the top left corner and you can see how fast it builds up as he uses the abilities. In order to avoid overloading, he's going to turn off heat, so the gauge drops a little bit. Otherwise, his damage loss is just so much. Oh, there's an overload for you. When you're out of combat, the overload goes away very quickly, so it's not a big deal. So now we have fire, we can melt all of the ice. And we're going to use a trick in the next room, which we're going to use a couple times in the run, called save and quit. When you save in this game, you save your current status, and when you load at the entrance to a room. So what we're going to do in this room is we're going to go across and pick up a key, and we're going to save and quit. And when we reload, we're at the entrance of the door, the entrance to the room, where we have the key. He's going to use that same trick in this room to bypass having to walk backwards on it. This saves a little bit of time. So now that we've completed this section, we're going to head over. We're going to first pick up the Winter Claw, which makes killing the bugs in the next room slightly faster. Not no big deal, but you know. And we're also going to get the last 2 keys that we need to complete the dungeon. We use Burn to get rid of the ice. We use the Mine to blow it up. We're going to kill 3 bugs here, hopefully, which will give us a level. If we don't kill all 3, if we don't get to all 3 bugs, we don't get that level. So, you know, we want the level. In the next room, what you're supposed to do is push a block around the room using explosives, or you can long jump. Much faster, much faster. So this run has a decent balance between skipping stuff by mostly jumping over it and actually doing stuff. I hope you guys have been drinking enough water. I have 3 giant glasses of it here, so I can keep myself hydrated. So stay hydrated, Pot doesn't get mad. So this is the final puzzle of the dungeon, in which we have to set up several arrow bubbles to make a ball bank across the entire room. Every dungeon pretty much ends with one of these types of puzzles. They just get more and more complicated as time goes on. In this case, we just need our 3 keys to unlock 3 of the banks, set up the solution. It just has to burn these 2 ice at the bottom. And there you go. He eats a spicy bun for the final gauntlet. Every dungeon has one of these too. In this case, it's against tons and tons of bugs. So one thing we would be worried about in this gauntlet would be how do we avoid overloading while killing probably like 50 or 60 bugs. And the answer is we actually gain levels. Whenever you gain a level, the overload meter resets. So he just gained a level and gained that whole reset. Over the course of killing all of these bugs, we're going to gain 2 levels. So if you can see the level up bar, which is right below the green health bar, it's that little flashing pink meter, it doesn't go across the entire thing twice. You don't get to see that. So you kind of just have to get a feel for when that second level up is coming. The overheat bar fills up whenever you use the element, whether or not he connects with an enemy. So if you have a lot of swings and misses, you're going to overload very quickly. Next up is the next boss. It's the boss of the Temple Mines. Now this boss has several things he does. He has a ice punch where he will punch across half the arena and one-shot us if we get hit by it. He has a flamethrower that crosses half the arena, which we never want to see. He can smash the ground and make tons and tons of rocks, which we also don't want to ever see. And then he can fire mines onto the platform, which is exactly what we want him to do because we have to break that thing in his center in order to damage him. So since we're going to wait for him to charge up the flamethrower, that counts as the flamethrower was used. And then he'll break him and hit the center. Now he's going to do his ice punch. Just going to move the hell away from there because, like I said, it's a one-shot because we don't have enough armor. And after the ice punch, always comes mine. The Simp is going to hit him with 2 mines. Wait for the flamethrower to start appearing so it counts as being used. And then he's going to flame jab, immediately dash, flame jab again, and that allows him to one-cycle that. He already has 2 mines here, though he just whiffed 1, so now he needs to use 4 to finish this next fight. Next phase of the fight. So the enemy spawns a bunch of them. He's got to hit him with 4 before the flamethrower goes off. Perfect. He's going to do 3 flame jabs, dashing between each of them. And there you go. Pretty much a perfect boss. So now we have one of the best tricks in the run. We're just going to die. I'm just kidding. But it's a hell of a lot faster if we do that. Because there's nowhere else to respawn us. So the developers, instead of having you get soft locked, just throw you at the other end. So now you're supposed to read a bunch of lore so we can answer the First Scholar's quiz. But because Synth is a resident lore genius, he is going to skip them all and go straight to the quiz. So one thing I didn't tell you guys about Leah is Leah can't talk. Leah has 3 words, I, and Leah right now, which makes it very difficult to answer a quiz. So once her friends realize that she can't really speak, they make it multiple choice, which is great. We also only answer all the questions correctly except for 1 because it's faster to get 1 wrong. Sandwiches?
Yep,
Okay,
thank you.
So we're picking up mega sandwiches here. These are entirely for backup. during the raid, which is the hardest part of the run. We used to have routed in those sandwiches plus another set of backup sandwiches. Simp is not going to grab those because he's just too cool for school. Alternatively, backups take time. Simp doesn't like wasting time. So now we're in the desert, because every game needs a desert. And we're going to try to sequence break the desert by doing a long jump from up here. Perfect. First try. That jump's really hard, because if you overspin, you can dash off it. You're supposed to get up here a different way. Don't ask me what the right way is. He's then going to jump on top of this plant and go across the top there to skip activating that switch. Now we're on top. You're not supposed to get on top unless you go through this a hell of a lot differently. It doesn't actually save that much time to be on top, but it does save some time. And by being on top, we got access to the Thief Band, which is a piece of headgear that gives attack. Attack is nice. And we can get 2 more Blazing Buns, which we can use to do more damage. The damage is nice. So we save time, get items, and look swag. It's the perfect reason why I never do that jump in any of my speedruns, because it's too hard. I don't know the right way to do a lot of things. I only know the fast way. All right, so that's it. So right over there, we have the...
You guys have time for just a quick donation?
Go for it.
All right, so we have a $5 donation from Liam saying, good luck to all the runners. Thanks so much for the donation. Again, if you guys would like to donate, make sure you hit that exclamation point donate. And if you guys would like to put that money to somewhere, make sure to hit exclamation point incentives so you can check out all the incentives that. But Liam, if you're in the chat, please make sure to let us know where you want to put that, if you want to put it anywhere. Anyway, back to the run.
So you want to update the runner, exclamation part runner, it's got the wrong name. All right, so now we have made it to the desert town, and we were given a quest. We need to go to the maroon tree and get rid of bugs that are inside of it, well, worms that are inside of it. And then they'll give us the shiny orb. We're also told that there's another member of the First Scholars. He's another new member. His name is Trani. Trani is great and will never betray us for anything. So Trani is a mage in this game. Leah's class is Spheromancer. We use chakrams that are sphere-shaped. Trani is a hexacaster. Emily is a pentafist. There are quadroguards, and Schneider was a tri-blader. As you may notice a theme here. So Trani is useful because he's another body, more or less. That's his main value. Against the worms that are coming up, if they attack Leah, we have to do a lot of dodging because they will kill us very, very quickly. But by Trani existing, they will sometimes target him, and that makes life great. So we're doing a bunch of long jumps to save going around the bottom of the screen to pick up the hidden blade, which upgrades our weapons. So now we got a level appropriate weapons. We have a level appropriate hat. We do not have a level appropriate boots, unless you bought them and forgot to equip them and I didn't miss it. Nice water. And our body is level 1 and is going to remain. So these are earthworms. Earthworms need to be lit on fire, and so they become vulnerable, and then they get to be hit by melee neutral attacks to be killed. When they are in neutral form, they spit rocks, either a little rock or a giant rock that splits. When they're in fire form, they shoot flaming rock. Their attacks home. Little bit of homing, and it's really bad. And the problem with that when I say homing is, if you just keep trying to dash away from them, they will hit you almost 100% of the time. And the giant rocks two-shot you. The little rocks, not so bad. The big rocks are basically a 2-3 shot. So they're problematic, especially because the flame forms attack fast. But it's okay. It's okay. The other thing about Trani is that Trani is a biologist, and he knows all sorts of things about all sorts of stuff. But in particular, he knows things about worms. And today, he's going to teach us a very important lesson about worms. If you could skip through that so we can see the line. So. Did you know that worms have 5 hearts? I didn't.
I didn't either, dude.
All right, so Simp's going to do the only triple long jump in the run. He failed it, unfortunately. It's not a major time loss. You can jump onto that second platform onto basically an invisible edge, which you saw him do. And from that invisible edge, you can do a triple long jump to try to skip that worm right there. That's Tim. The worms are called. If you fail, you can keep trying, or you can just fight the one Tim. It's not that big of a time save. but it looks cool and it's really hard. So now we have the Giant Tim, and Giant Tim summons a couple of Wormads and attacks us the whole time because he's a jerk. We just have to break him like any other worm and then take him to half health. Now he summons 2 more worms and we repeat. The big problem here is just you're getting attacked from all different angles, and if they're all on Leah, it's just really unfortunate. Alright, so now he's just got to maneuver through this last set of platforming without getting targeted by the worm. If so, he's got to do some emergency dodging, basically. So you can see how that, did you see how that rock curved in the air? That's what they do. And if the big rock does that, he's going to get knocked down, and there's time loss, and too many times he was die. See their Tims. T-I-'IN. Alright, so now we're heading, now that we've completed this, we're going to go pick up the Shiny Orb. And the Shiny Orb's going to unlock access to the temple, except we ran into Apollo. And Apollo wants a rematch because we beat the crap out of him earlier. Apollo's friend there, that's Yorn. Yorn apologizes. Apollo's a bit boisterous, but it's okay. We'll beat him up again. So the next fight is Apollo 2. We're going to cheat once again by eating food before the fight. And unlike the first encounter with Apollo, we do damage this time. So, but we're going to do a very similar plan. We're going to try to, if he melees, we're going to block him, and then we're going to do 1, 2, 3 dash, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flame jab. If he goes into his range form, we're just going to flame jab his face. So the big thing about this one basically boils down to same thing as last time, except we don't need to do it nearly as long. You can see we just kind of rip through his health bar. The only downside, of course, to this fight is he also does a heck of a lot more damage because we still don't have defense. Alright, so far so good. Basically, after the first 2 rounds, it's pretty random whether or not he's going to start in ranged or melee, so you just got to adapt accordingly. Perfect. And then the last one, he's going to try to get a little cute this time, because you notice he switches elements in this fight. He either goes fire or he'll go neutral. In the 5th form, he gets kind of cute, tries to swap between them. But we can just punch him in the face with fire. If you start losing the fight, Emily politely informs you that the best strategy is to punch him and punch him harder. So now we're in the 2nd dungeon, which is Faro Temple. Faro is the fire/ice temple. The big mechanic here is we got these bubbles. If you hit the bubbles with fire, then they pop. You're supposed to use them to pop fans, and the fans turn and raise platforms. Or you can long jump. The other mechanic are candles. You can see those there. Candles only work when you hit them with an elemental attack. Generally speaking, you have to hit them with a ranged ball and try to light them all up at once. What you're supposed to do in this temple is go to each side, go to a ton of rooms, and come to each of these platforms and hit the switch, which enables you to hit the candle and do a very easy shot into them. But with some physics, you can skip all of it. So congratulations, that's the first half of the temple. We're up to the cold boss now. We have a giant bug. Hi, bug. Now we have here octopi enemies. We would have seen these earlier, but we skipped them. The octopi enemies shoot a bubble themselves, and what you're supposed to do to kill them normally is you have to basically hit them with the explosion of their bubble, and that breaks them. Enables you to actually fight them. What we're going to have to do is make sure it pops over the giant worm and fill up his break gauge that way. So we try to lure the ball over it, pop the ball, fill up the break gauge. For the 2nd round, we want to sit here and just try to perfect guard these. If you take all of them to the face, you don't die, but perfect guarding is cool. He breaks. We're going to do Sphere Saw into Sphere Saw, and he's done. Nice and easy. So now we're going to pick up the cold element. Cold has a couple of really useful properties as far as what we're going to pick up in the run. We're going to pick up a ranged cold art, which hits multiple times, which is really useful for breaking things and for hitting switches. We're also going to pick up a cold art called Indigo Rush. Indigo Rush is the first dash art we have in the game. And that's great because then we can dash faster because we can just dash art. When we're in areas where there's no enemies that we need to save up SP for. So the other mechanic now is we can freeze those things, and then we can use them to create steam to launch platforms. The other mechanic are corner jumps. Corner jumps are basically a lot of the fences in this game. There's actually a pixel you can stand on whenever they're diagonal, so we can take advantage of that by jumping on them. punch. Saves time. So there are 4 types of... Alright, so this enemy, first, we Hail Flurry it to break it, and we have to hit it with one of the frozen balls, and then you just finish it off. Casually, you may not have realized that you needed both of the things. And so if Synth does fail, for instance, to do it, he can just basically run into its face and just smash it down. You can also use cold balls to free ice blocks. This next room, we're going to use Indigo Rush to set up a wall of ice. Then we're going to lure an octopi into the ice. Come, it's safe in the ice, though. Safe in the ice. Oh, it died. It wasn't very smart. We also have flaming moths. The moths are in the air, so we have to use this candle here that you see has a bottom and a top. You throw an elemental ball into the bottom, it pops out the top. You throw it into the top, it pops out the bottom. You use that to throw charge shots at these moths, and that'll break them and cause them to fall to the ground. So there are 4 types of arts in this game. There are melee arts, dash arts, throwing arts, and guard arts. Each art has up to 3 levels, but we have to learn those different levels in the circuit grid. The way you use the different arts you've learned is you basically just hold the button down longer once you've got enough SP and have learned them. So for tier 2 arts, which we don't have access to yet, but will after this dungeon, you just hold it down so it basically pulses twice, and that'll consume 3 SP. The tier 3s take 6. But we don't get those for a while. On the sphere grid, you'll notice that we also have branching paths. The branching paths sound like you have to make these very important choices when you're learning your skills, but no, you don't actually. What happens is the game has a feature where you can swap anytime between the 2 paths, so you can change which art you've learned. And we're going to take advantage of that in the run to swap between all sorts of different arts for different situations. Once again, Hail Flurry, breaks him, ice ball to the face, breaks him a second time, down he goes. You're supposed to make 2 platforms of frozen magma in that room, or you can long jump. In this room, you're supposed to do a pipe puzzle. You use the ice to bring down the ball. You use the fire to make the pipe actually be a continuous loop. Or, as Sith is trying to do, you can just do an indigo jump or a double long jump. So basically, indigo jumps are the exact same thing as a long jump, but instead of jump, melee, double dash, or single dash, it's jump, press melee, or press guard or whatever, and then press dash art. It's a little difficult because you're pressing more buttons, but it's just easier to do, so it's a little more forgiving. And you can use indigos in places of a lot of the doubles. So here, Synth uses a corner jump to just bypass this whole puzzle. Nicely done. And then he'll save and quit to get to the front of the room with the key, because we can't actually walk backwards because, you know, we didn't set a platform. Here, we have to solve the puzzle of how to make a ball hit the bubble, freeze the bubble, and then go into the furnace. Conveniently, we know the solution. It's just a physics puzzle. This next puzzle, we have to set up a set of bubbles so we can hit each of the candles. The secret to this is, so you can see this little ice icon at the bottom there. Ice is going to open that door. We're going to throw fire first, because fire gives us a hat, the dented crown, which we're going to keep for the remainder of the run. Synth also has the power of ice to melt fire, so we just have to melt both of these fires quickly enough before they respawn. Now we actually have to do a pipe puzzle, legitimately, even though we can skip the second half of it. Here we have to set up a timing pipe puzzle. So the pipe creates 2 of them, and Sim just has to make it loop around once so they hit at the exact same time. So we're almost done with the dungeon now. So in this room we have a ton of octopi, simply just going to throw their balls back at them. And then the little wrinkle in this room is we're going to get another one of those giant Space Invader dudes who needs to get Hail Flurried and then hit by a frozen ball. But the ball has to come from the octopi. Ooh, tricky. Tim's too good at this game, though. Doesn't matter. right, so now we've got all the keys. So the only thing left to do is to do the final puzzle, and then the final gauntlet. Oh, sorry, you have to do the one more thing. Things are rerouted at one point. This is the Scorpion room. We're going to use Indigo Rush a ton in this room because the Scorpions like to walk into the ice. Also, they're on the ground, so they can do that. Indigo Rush actually does a pretty sizable amount of damage. Alright, now we've got our keys. We have 4 of them, so we're going to unlock the final puzzle. So once again, we have a puzzle in which we need to send a ball through a bunch of banks. But this time, it's time. So the ball gets slowed down by the little icon that's in the beginning of it, and then we just have to clear the path along the way. We have to use candles to remove barriers. We have to both blow up water blocks with fire and freeze them with ice. So it puts together all the little things you learned in this puzzle, and it's time. Now we're in the final actual gauntlet for this one. Since, as you notice, it swapped from Hail Flurry over to Snowflake, I think it's called, which is just a giant explosion, which allows us to knock multiple guys down at once. So the black moths, you notice the red moths, you hit them, they fall down. The black moths are craftier fellows, they dodge. So the way you have to deal with the black moths is you have to wait for them to charge up their laser, and then you have to hit them while they're charging it, or during their cooldown period afterwards. Tim's just waiting for both of them to charge up their lasers so he can use one Snowflake to hit them all at once. So, he's just going to take out the rest of our flaming moths and our laser moths. Our good friend Emily, who is a bug aficionado, is really unhappy about laser moths. But it's okay. Leah will come to her later. This game is a game with probably one of the most hugs per capita. I'm sure there might be other games with lots of hugs. This game has a lot of them. Anyway, moths are dead. Great, we got our final key. Let's go fight the final boss. Spoilers, it's a moth. So the giant moth at the end of this dungeon isn't too complicated. What Symph is going to do is he's going to throw ice through a candle into its eye in order to build up its break meter. When it breaks, it falls on the ground, and we just have to get the wail on it for a little bit. In its subsequent phases, the moth will try to charge up its own laser to shoot at us from part of the platform, and we're just going to Hail Flurry during that section in order to knock him down before the laser comes out, because we can't actually base tank that laser. We'll see if we see the laser. There we go. So he's going to laser right now. He's charging up. So we throw all the Hail Flurries to stop that. Now he lands on the opposite side and summons the little bubbles, as you can guess. We freeze them, and then we make platforms. If you do not get over there fast enough, he will regenerate about a third of his missing health or so. So you do not have a lot of time. This game can be very rough casually. So this is the last phase. He just does everything he was doing faster. Once more with the bubbles. And we just walk on over, break them, finish them off. And that is Farah. So you notice that at one point during that fight, Leah got lit on fire. So each of the elements in this game has an associated status ailment. Cold is freeze, heat is burn, shock is jolt, and wave is mark. Most of those sound self-explanatory except for wave, because nothing about wave. Freeze makes you move very slowly. You can't basically dodge, it's awful. Burn just deals damage over time. Shock is damage over time less frequently than burn, but every time you get shocked, you get stunned. And we're going to take advantage of that later. And then Mark makes you take 50% bonus damage from ranged attacks, which can be lethal if you're not careful. We're actually going to take advantage of Mark a little later in the game to enhance our damage. So next section of the game is Autumn's Fall. Our friends have informed us that they would like to do a raid and get all the good loot, because this is an MMO and doing raids is what we do. But we haven't progressed far enough in the story to do that. So we're going to go do the prereqs to attune for the raid. In order to do that, we have to go get the Seed Shade. And the Seed Shade we get by chasing a white rabbit. We're going to be Alice in Wonderland for a little bit. Except instead of course being a rabbit, it's a frobit. But you know, it's a holographic frobit, a white tomato. So the frobit section of the game involves basically several outdoor puzzles and fights. These fights are very difficult. I'll explain why it is shortly. The puzzles are mostly just bank shotting, like that. We're going to use Hail Flurry a ton for this because Hail Flurry shoots multiple projectiles. So if we're off slightly, at least one of those projectiles is going to make it, right? It also, of course, allows us to shoot a charge shot faster because skills come out immediately and charge shots require a second to line up. So the fights coming up are going to be against the hedgehogs, the buffalo, and the hill cats. You remember those enemies I pointed out when we were in Autumn's Rise at the beginning of the game. Here in Autumn's Fall, they're just palette swap super versions. The issue is, if you notice, we still haven't upgraded our body. We're going to upgrade our weapon shortly. Come on, physics. And weapons in this game do contain a defense stat, so by upgrading our weapons, we do increase our survivability, but our survivability is still way under level. And that means getting hit is really bad. The Hillcats are going to throw fireballs at us, which will do a significant amount of damage to Leah's health, at over 100 damage per hit, and they shoot multiples. And the Hedgehogs are going to dash at us, Sonic-style spin dash. If we perfect guard them, they immediately break. If not, they basically dash through us twice, and they do a bunch of damage. And the Buffalo can two-shot us by snorting at the ground, which hurts multiple times, or by dashing into us, which will almost kill us. In other words, don't get it. You'll also notice during the circuit, we picked up some new abilities. We now have tier 2 melee arts on both ice and fire, which you'll get to see in the next boss. So there you can see the dashing. The Hillcats are broken, but they go, basically they turn red. If you shoot, they throw a charge ball at them, that breaks them so we can actually melee them. Otherwise, if you try to melee them, they duck underground. The Buffalo are only vulnerable to attacks. So what Synth is going to try to do is get behind them and use Blazing Dragon, our 2-tier melee art, which will freeze them in place while he does a bunch of damage. There you go. Good die. Now what you're supposed to do in this section of the game is we're going to pull blocks and set up a slight set of platforms for us to jump across. Then you're supposed to go down around the bottom of the screen, fight some seahorses, and move your way to another fight against Buffalo. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do instead is we're going to use a double long jump or an indigo jump, both work, to skip the fight with the seahorses. We don't get to skip the Buffalo fight, unfortunately, because the Frobit is waiting for you to actually beat the Buffalo before it moves on to its next location. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to go do that. We just skip the Buffalo. We just skip the seahorses. Now we're going to fight 3 Buffalo. This fight is very hard. The number of runs lost to this fight in particular is pretty significant. Because you can just get comboed to death pretty fast. You'll notice Synth's already lost a quarter of his health, and now he's just getting hit by attacks not even meant for him. He's gotten charged twice, and now he's about to die. He's going to eat one of his backup sandwiches. So you can see how quickly things go from bad to, worse. So like I said, there's status elements in each element. We used ice on the Buffalo. By using ice on the Buffalo, it actually enables us to freeze him in place, which is super nice. Now Synth is trying to set up a trick here, which will enable him to skip some more area. So first, what we need to do is get 3 meter, because we're going to be using tier 2 neutral art. And the tier 2 neutral art, the way it works is you go up in the air. So we're going to go up in the air. And we're going to land on the platform as it respawns. Because when you throw a platform into the water, it respawns where it starts. And that enables us to skip the other section. We're going to use that several times. So Synth just turned off his allies from doing anything so they don't screw up the quick kill here. Quick kill still might go. We'll see. You break him, Blazing Dragon him, you phase him, and you try to lock him in place. And if you get it right, you one-cycle him. That's not a guaranteed quick kill. But if you fail, you can just do another Blazing Dragon on when he switches forms, and it's just a 2 cycle. So now we're attuned for the raid. We're going to go tell our buddies that. So now that we're attuned, we have to actually go to the raid location. So we're going to go meet our buddies over on Para Island. We're going to go raiding. And the way the raid works in this game is there are 2 parties. It's our party, which is Emily, Trani, and Leah, who we know and love. And then the other 3 are 3 members of the First Scholars, who are Schneider. Oh man, I should know people's names. I don't remember them.
Schneider,
Anyways,
Buggy,
who...
and Hillen.
Thank you. Hillen, who's the leader of the guild and a Quadra Guard, and then you've got Buggy, who I believe is a Tri-Blader as well. But he looks kind of a little bit like a Weep, just a little bit. Anyway, so they're going to be the other party. And the way the raid works is both teams have to beat up particular enemies at the same time, in essence. The same colors at the same time. We never get to see what they're doing. But as long as we do our job, and we do it before they do their job, we're happy. Basically what it boils down to. And I'll explain it when you get to actually see it. So we do all this work because we need a better weapon, because once again, we need to keep our equipment up to date or we're in major trouble. And that's just a couple of easy fights. Alright, so the way the raid's going to work is first room, we're just going to fight a bunch of enemies. Starting with our hedgehogs, then moving to seahorses, and then moving to buffalo. And we haven't seen the seahorses yet, so the game expects that we have. Seahorses are awful. They're one of the worst enemies in the game. They shoot bubbles, and the bubble itself is not super bad. But if you don't kill them fast enough, they'll charge up and shoot lots of bubbles. And if they shoot lots of bubbles, that set of bubbles can basically one-shot us. You don't have the health. They're ranged, they back away from us. They're awful. Awful, awful, awful. So we've got to get to the buffalo. Remember, they only take damage from their back. The way the buffalo get themselves vulnerable is they dash at you, dash and hit the wall, then you can actually attack them from behind without issue. The only other issue with that is that when they hit the wall, they actually bounce off it and make a little explosion behind them, and that explosion still does damage, so you can't get that. Now we have a bunch of Hellcats, and then we get the actual mechanic of the raid, which are blocks, everyone's favorite colored blocks. So we have to kill the correct color of blocks at the right time. So in this case, we start with fire. The order's never random. We have to kill the fire blocks before our allies kill the fire blocks, because if they kill them first, then we're just slow. It's not a mechanically a problem, but we're just slow. You hit the blocks twice to break them. Once they're broken, they go active, they attack with their elements, and you just have to try to avoid dying. Once you destroy one element, the tower in the center will start throwing that element at us. So, first set of blocks, nothing crazy, right? We kill the fire blocks, we shoot fire, we kill the ice block, now it's shooting ice. So, next. We have our trash mobs before the mini-boss. Which are just 2 hedgehogs and a buffalo. Too crazy. If a buffalo would actually cooperate. And this time we have to do blue block and red block. So it's just going to break the blue, take it down, get up and bank some shots to hit the blue block, then take it down. Nice and easy. Wait for it. We just wait for our buddies to finish, and we get a little bit of healing from that. And then we start the second wave. We have to kill the red blocks, and a bunch of extra enemies are going to spawn. So we got some more hedgehogs and red blocks. If Sip breaks one of the wrong colored blocks before our allies finish and the blocks disappear, the blocks that we previously destroyed go active again, and we need to swap targets again. And that'll reactivate the wrong color block that we accidentally killed. It becomes very messy. So, he's cutting it kind of close. It's because he's good at this game. Now we're after the purple blocks. Purple are blocks for shock blocks. Shock is the worst element in this game to fight against because it's everywhere, it's fast, and if you get jolted, your life's over. We took them out nice and easy. Now we're onto the fire blocks and a bunch of seahorses. The goal is to prevent the seahorses from charging up because, again, if they do their charge attack, that can one-shot you. And it's hard to dodge. It's really hard to dodge. Now we're just waiting for them to finish up.
Good ending. I don't. It shouldn't be an incentive, my friends. I didn't. Last time I checked, it was an incentive.
The last section. This is the second to last section of the raid. In this case, we have Bancho Buffalo, and this time we're going to have the other element we haven't seen, which are the wave ones. Wave attacks in this game basically are just 9 explosions, so they're kind of whatever. They have a really satisfying sound when they go off, though. They're not too bad to deal with. This section's just annoying because you have a ton of hill cuts you're dealing with.
Oh, got a little bit distracted here. Very, very sorry.
Yep. So this caused a color conflict, which is to say he finished off the blocks at the wrong time, which means that the green ones went active again, and he has to go and beat them up the second time. So chat's asking about the endings. There are 2 endings in this game, a bad ending and a good ending. Right before the final section of the game, you have an opportunity to see some dialogue and do a very short quest to unlock the good ending. It's not that hard to get. I don't believe New Game Plus is in the game yet, so it doesn't even unlock. But, you know, happy endings are nice. We're not going to have a happy ending. Alright. At this point, we're just going to finish off the last ice block, wait for our buddies to finish. Good to go. And here's the final part of the raid. At this part, we get to make the choice of colors that we're going to actually deal with, since we're going to use wave first. It doesn't really matter what we do, it's just as long as you make sure that you hit something fast, and to start the whole procedure, they're all the same speed. So it really boils down to whatever block you can trigger quickest, / whatever you find the least annoying to deal with. As you can see, the thing shoots a hell of a lot of spots you have to dodge, and the spot on the ground you have to dodge is bigger than the ice. Next up are the fire blocks, nothing too crazy with them. After the fire blocks, we're going to have the mortar. There's a lot of just once you get fast enough at it, it's nothing too crazy. So after we defeated all of the blocks, we go to the final boss of the raid, and no, that doesn't. See, something went a little bit wrong, and our system got hacked, and Leah got dragged up to the middle of nowhere. At this point, Sergey has an idea of who the real culprit is behind what's going on. But we meet our orange-clothed guy again. So you can actually fight this guy, the designer, in this fight, where he has 16 health bars, and there is a win state. But getting to that win state is slower than just suicide, so we just do it. That's the fastest way to get through there. If you're inclined to try to challenge the designer and win that fight, for the definition of win, then you basically have to go through, I think it's 4 phases? Somewhere between 4 and 6 phases of the fight. The fight there very much mirrors the fight against him much later in the game. When you complete it, the end result is the exact same. There's no experience, there are no items, there's no nothing you can get for it, other than the smug satisfaction of having beat him at his own game for a little while. And come on, let's be honest, everybody wants that smug satisfaction of doing that. So now we're in Vermilion Wastes. We got teleported here afterwards, apparently it's a couple days later. We can't communicate with anyone outside of the wastes, and we can't teleport, so something's weird. We also ran into Schneider, who decides to help us out. That's nice of Schneider. Now, Schneider's much higher level than we are. That's one of the reasons that he didn't play with Leah and Emily at the beginning of the game. But it does mean here that when we fight enemies, Schneider does that. As you can see, he's doing hundreds, thousands. We're going to take advantage of that, / the game expects you to take advantage of that. To get through Vermilion Waste, we were given a quest, and the quest was touch this block and then hit some switches. Seems weird, but okay. We'll do it. Sounds fun. So in this room, we're going to have, basically they're all environmental puzzles that involve turning on a switch to set up a shot to make. You land on the switch, set up your bank shot, take your bank shot. You know, one of those types of things. In the next section, we're going to have to do another bank shot to pull off a switch without moving. So it's introducing you to a lot of, you must stand here to pull off this shot. And then we're going to have some tight timing with switches. So the last one of these, we throw a shot to hit the switch, jump up, and immediately throw the ice because you have like 2 seconds to do it. For this next fight, the enemies are designed to target Schneider. Schneider's not actually in there, so they're designed to sit there and look pretty. Thing is up. It's pretty straightforward. Just bank shot here and there. And now we've activated all the switches, which leads to very simple fight against a ton of these viruses. Again, Schneider wasn't with us, so the enemies just kind of sit there. Now we have our next set of enemy types, which are the elemental virus. Now that virus is fire type. You can tell because it's red. It's going to create a buddy. We're then going to break the buddy and throw him back at him. We can also kill the fire viruses with an ice twirl before they actually put up their little shield. Because if you don't break them, you don't do damage to them at all. That only works against the fire viruses because our ice attack is this really nice AoE. However, against the later we're going to see ice versions of those, we don't have a fire equivalent. We can't learn a fire equivalent. There just isn't. So we're going to have to do something a little different. So this enemy is Elemental Ghost. These ghosts are like level 60, which is why we let Schneider tank it, because Ghost does tons of damage and has tons of life. So you can see the Schneider's taking hundreds of damage. Leah will take more than hundreds of damage. And, well, not good. We don't have the health for it. That's an okay ghost type. You want to kill it during its vulnerable period after it throws all of the elements at the face.
Good day. We got the time for a plugin.
Go for it.
Yeah, sure. So this marathon, NGA, no glitches allowed, does actually support Go Rescue, which helps animals to get off the street and get adopted and so on. So if you want to support this cause, you can use !! donations to get to the donation page. With all donation, you can also put towards an incentive like increased and more difficult run for a runner or certain skin or so on. So please check that out. Donation. Anyways, continue to run.
Okay, so from here our next set is to complete the next quest here in Vermilion 2. That way we are able to actually do whatever it is we need to do that while we're here. We don't really know what we're supposed to be doing here, but the guy says there's quests, so we're going to do them. Except today he told us there's no quest to do. So instead, Schneider said he's going to give us the grand tour of Vermilion. We're walking around the areas of Vermilion we have to talk about. Nothing too complicated. As you may imagine, we are going to go to these areas very shortly. Now that we've seen the sights, we're going to head back to town, and we're going to see the tower. You have a second to see it. Look for it. Look for it. Wasn't it a pretty tower? Didn't use a bunch of the promotional stuff. We'll go there soon enough. Now we're on to Vermilion Day 3, which will be a day like any other day, except, oh god, something's going wrong, and hey, look, it's the girl from the prologue. That's Shizuka. She just slapped Leah in the face and told her, Leah, you're not an amnesiac. You're actually an AI. So Leah doesn't take that well. You know, most people would take getting told, yeah, you're not a person, you're actually a robot really well. So she's kind of clammed up and isn't feeling good about it. But as you remember, Leah can't talk, so it's not as if she can actually, you know, explain it all. That's all right. We'll deal. We'll deal. So we were given the quest for the second day of Vermilion, which is go to 3 more spots. We'll go to 2 spots, get their 3 little shiny spots, and trigger them, just like last time. Next section up is going to be in the forest zone. And the forest zone, if you remember from our little grand tour, is going to involve basically just hopping on top of these things. Well, attempting to hop on top of these things. You know how it goes. And we're once again going to have to hit the 3 switches. Our goal, though, you're supposed to do for this little section is there's a switch actually below that you're supposed to hit, which will remove the barrier. You can save like a second if you use a Hail Flurry there. We also are supposed to go a long way around this area, but, you know, long jumps, you might be sensing a theme. And the reason we do that is it skips an encounter along the way. Here's the best trick of the run. You basically throw, when we step on that switch, a bunch of walls appear and set up a challenge. However, by throwing the ice ahead of time, we can just make the switch appear when the ice is actually over the switch and it instantly gets hit. It is literally my favorite trick. It's very small. I enjoy that. So now that we've actually triggered all of the actual tower things, Leah is just not in a good mood, and Schneider decides, well, let's just call it a day, all right? We'll, tomorrow we'll actually finish it out. No big deal. And so ends Vermilion Day 3. Vermilion Day 4, we're going to do the actual little trial, which is going to involve fighting of the elemental viruses. And after the elemental viruses, we're going to deal with the level 60 monsters going to show up. And the level 60 monster is going to show up this time is going to be a rhinoceros that's sort of half completed. When he breaks it, listen for the honk. It's the best sound effect in the game. So this time we have ice viruses instead of fire viruses. And the big thing about that basically comes down to we can't kill the ice viruses before they spawn the same way we can with the fire viruses. So either we make a choice when both of them are showing up to try to go for the ice twirl, in which case we just kill one of them before it spawns, or we can use Blazing Dragon to pull it off, and Blazing Dragon will only, of course, kill one of them. So the Rhinoceros has a couple of moves. It can throw a bunch of ice at us, it can teleport around and dash, and it can hop around. The nice thing about it, though, is it can actually be broken, unlike the Ghost. And the way that you... Oh, after Leah. Bad times. Cool. So you can see it basically kills you, touches you. But yeah, so since we can actually break him, Schneider gets time to actually deal damage, and we use Blazing Dragon to help lock him in place. That was very, very close. As you saw it, get 2 shots.
I was panning a little bit.
Yeah, I'm surprised you lived.
It's not I think that's like been about 15 runs before that thing has actually aggroed onto me.
Yeah, I assume it's based somewhat on the proximity of Leah to everything else, but it's a little unclear. So we're up to the last part of Vermilion, which is the Vermilion Tower. Before we can get to the tower, though, we got to do a requisite, mandatory, every game must have its stealth section. And stealth sections, as we know, are the best part of every video game. Everyone enjoy, as Leah is the most stealthy. The stealth section in this game isn't that bad, partly because it's not that long, and partly because it's not that hard. It's also very suspicious that we're going through a stealth section, except it's all sort of traps and things set up to make it look like we can get through it correctly. It's weird. Anyway, so fights at this point against tons more elemental viruses. See the respawn thingy is going on the fritz. So our goals for several sections of this fight is set up ice twirls so we don't actually have to fight the elemental viruses. So you can see that was pulled off in the second wave. Also going to try to pull that off as part of the third wave if we have the SP. It's in this case, but you know, if you can, the goals will be cool. Basically, for this entire section, the goal is not to count on Schneider for anything, and just be pleasantly surprised when he does his job. That's basically how it goes. So the headlights on these guys, they look like they're on the ground, right? So we should be able to just walk past them. No, don't do it. It won't work. Those headlamps have basically infinite vertical access, so we kinda can't. Use an indigo jump there. You saw it to bypass the entirety of that first part, which is great. And then we just move around this area, hit all the switches, wait for that guy to move because the headlight goes through walls. It goes through walls, it goes infinitely high. And that's the end of the stealth section, into the tower. So for the first side of the tower, we have a couple easy puzzles, no big deal. Now you're supposed to set up some platforms in this section, or, you know, long jump. Another set of elemental viruses. Again, we're going to use the same trick we've been using the whole time against them. When they spawn, we're going to try to kill it. Alright, now we're going to break the rules. Again, more cheating. So, since this whole Vermilion place is such a nonsense area clearly hacked into existence, Sergey, which it turns out he's a programmer, Sergey is also going to hack. So he is setting up little hack points where we're going to break through the actual instance of the dungeon. The dungeons in this game are instance such that each character goes through their own version of it. But again, it's not virtual, it's all physical. So there are actual rooms where this happens. So we're just going to break from the rooms to other rooms. All in an attempt to find the instance where Schneider is, so we can rescue him. That's the plan. We're going to save our boy. Because he does not have a magical hacking man helping him. However, we run just a slight snag as our orange-clothed gent happens to be here, and he sends his shredders on us. So we gotta run. Now, it turns out our yellow, clothing yellow man is actually named Gotham. And Gotham was a friend of Sergey. And he was the guy who actually came in the suit and tie from a brief moment when we first entered Vermilion. We don't know quite why he's doing what he's doing, but what he's doing isn't good. But he has one more trap for us, and that is the giant enemy snail. So first it was a giant enemy crab, and now it's a giant enemy snail. I think he just likes giant enemy things. So the snail has a lot of life. You can notice we're doing no damage to it, literally. So the issue is the snail has like 10 quadrillion HP or something. Lots of zeros. So we can't actually kill it. That's a problem. So what we're going to come up with for our solution is more hacking. So Sergey's put together a program where if we kill the snails, our attack power increases. So our plan is to almost break his tail, because we're going to need that to actually eventually kill him. And every time he spawns snails, we are going to throw a steel ball at them just to kill them both in one quick shot. So, kill the snails, injure the tail a bit more to get it closer to breaking. Perfect. So it'll break immediately when we need it to. And then we just continue our farming of the little guys. Now, this next section of the fight, which I'm going to get to in a second, can be entirely skipped. And the way you skip it is you break his tail the moment he starts the next section. So when you see Gotham talk, and the snail jump to the right side of the room and push us to the left side of the room, if you break his tail right before the barrier comes up, you skip all of this. You interrupt the wall forming, and he just goes back to the prior phase and just continues that phase. However, that's slower, turns out, than just sitting there and going through this. So, you know, is what it is. So after you perfect guard enough of these fireballs, we're just going to press the switch in the center. Now we actually do damage. So, break his tail, and we're clear. I'll be back in 1 second. You guys can enjoy the rest of the snail fight.
I believe this would be a good time for donations if there are any, my friends.
Unfortunately, we got no donations.
All
But
right.
again, I can plug the marathon once more. All the donations actually go towards Go Rescue, who helps animals to get out of the streets and get adopted into better homes, or good homes. So please donate if you got time.
All right, so we killed the giant enemy snail with the power of math, and then Sergey gave us a plot dump, which is basically Shizuka and her brother. Satoshi developed AIs that basically copied a person. They copy of a person, and then that person sort of slowly regains some of their memories and then lives as they think they're that person. Cool technology, bro. So he brings it to his bosses and says, "Hey, I've made this cool tech." And his bosses say, "We don't want it, go away." So they end up basically getting funded by some criminal to finish that research because they find it interesting. Apollo comes back and wants to fight. The third Apollo fight is the saddest fight of them all. We're going to block him. Well, if he goes in range form, we're not going to block him because he's a jerk. Well, we can one-shot him at this point. So he's going to melee us for the next 4 rounds. We're going to block him. We're going to hit him a couple times, and we're going to use Spear Storm. We could also fail to guard him. That works too. But yeah, the idea, block, Spear Storm. Block, Spear Storm. Yeah, it's alright, it's alright. Now, whenever in a PvP fight, if your enemy turns yellow, it means they're about to use all of their skills. All of the skills. And generally speaking, you're dead when that happens. Not always, but generally. Good backup. Good backup. Generally speaking, like I said, the idea there is you just block them, Spear Storm them, moving on with our lives.
Slow. There is no good ending. Pretty sure I tried to get rid of that incentive. Last time I checked, it wasn't there.
So the next section of the game is called Gaia's Gardens. And Gaia Gardens is a nice woody area that's going to contain 2 temples that we're going to go through. Well, 3 temples we're going through. the Shock Temple and the Wave Temple to get the respective elements, because we only have 2 and we need to get 4.
Oops.
And then Gran Grijo, which we need to use in order to combine these 2 together and pick up the actual shade as our prize to move on through the game. So we go to the temple, because that's what we want to do, and we're going to find out, ooh, we can't actually go in yet, because spot, people are not happy about it. Long jumps are hard, guys. Very hard.
Something.
Yeah, so in order to get... Yeah, I know. I'm well aware of the trouble of them. So you saw that's the spin out I was talking about. The shit that can happen to Leah, these sort of little tiny little dashes. So we get up to the temples, and they're blocked by a bunch of shad, which are those type of NPCs. And they're mad at the humans because a bunch of black cats have shown up that are electric and causing trouble, and they say that it's the power plant that the humans have that's the problem. A power plant in the middle of the jungle, you say? Well, it turns out there's a giant city in the middle of the jungle. And I invite you to listen to the smooth jazz of bassing people. So now we have to get our quest to actually deal with the shad that are in the way, because we actually would like to continue with the cross-world game at some point, please. So we're told that we think the real problem here that's causing the black cats to show up is inside the Shad Village. So our next stop is to head over to the Shad Village and investigate the issue, which is going to, of course, turn out to be a giant stick. That's right, guys. Electric sticks. We'll get to the sticks. Because we're going to see our next wonderful trick, the moon jump, which is not possible on the current version of the game, but there are ways to do this trick that don't require the moon jump. And the way the moon jump works is we have to get jolted. And jolted, as you remember, is the status element that comes out of the shock element. And the shock element does damage over time and stuns. Turns out, if you get stunned while you're in the middle of Blizzard Hawk, which is a tier 1 ice art, you just kind of go flying. I don't know why or how it works, but it does.
Apparently, when you're performing Blizzard Hawk, the game detects what Leah hits and sends the next properties of that attack to whatever she hits. So because Jolt recognizes as Leah hitting herself, the Blizzard Hawk detects Leah, so she hits Leah hits Leah.
So there you go. So Leah just went flying. Blizzard Hawk's a tier 2. Sorry. So Leah hits herself for a couple hundred damage there, because that's why he unequipped her stuff. And we go for a ride. So we're going to try to skip a little bit here by breaking that block with ricochet shots. If you don't do that, you have to walk across the ground. It saves, like, I don't know, 5 seconds or something. And now we're going to go find the origin of the black cats. And holy crap, like I said, it's a stick. A stick with shock cats. Well, these are wickets. Wicked cats. The pink ones are shock cats. Shockets. Get it? It's a pun. So the way we deal with the shockets is we use elemental attack and range to break them. Remember, just if you touch their bodies, as you saw with the pink cats, you take damage. When they have that emanating magnetic field, you take a lot of damage. When I say a lot of damage, I mean if you go into their face to try to hit them with a melee art or something, you lose half your health immediately. If you try to stay in there for more than a second, you just... and that's the end of it. It's right. Tons of damage. Really crazy. So we never melee them. It's suicide. Alright, so we've found the source of the cats with a stick. Whatever. Now we gotta go tell the Shad about that.
Oops.
And once we tell the Shad about it, we will get access to the first 2 temples. So the first temple that's coming up is going to be the Wave Temple. The Wave Temple is going to be full of shock-based enemies Oh, sorry, the wave temple is full of wave-based enemies, shock-based puzzles, and we get the shock element in it. In the same way that the fire temple is where we got the ice element, and the ice temple is the fire element. It's all opposites, and it's very confusing. And if you ever wonder if I'm right about this, look at the OST. The name of the lightning temple is the song is Lightning Temple. That's how you know. Anyway, so the big puzzle mechanics in this dungeon are going to be balls of lightning. It's going to be throwing around to turn things on. So we're going to throw hail flurries through the shock orbs, because that makes lots of little shock balls. So that gives us a condensed ball of shock. Condensed shock balls fly in a direction, you hit them until they hit a wall, and they ride along the wall until they make it to one of those little diamond-shaped things where they disappear. The shock balls turn on those screw things and shoot electric charges. We're going to be doing that a lot. Enemy-wise, we have the screaming fish. Everybody loves screaming fish. Actually, they're almost impossible to dodge through screaming fish. We break them by destroying a bunch of balls at them, and then we dodge the scream by just dashing. But if you fail to dash, well, you can see the damage. Bad. In the next room, we're going to use corner jumps and an indigo jump to skip the entirety of it, other than the final piece of the puzzle, where we use the second mechanic of the dungeon, magnetism. So these blocks move around with magnets. Now you've seen most of the mechanics of this dungeon, and you have to use these to solve some puzzles. But otherwise, of course, long jumps. Lots of long jumps. So we're going to take the top path first, after the ice troll kills these guys. And the reason we take the top path is because there is the sneaky shiv hiding up there. And the sneaky shiv is a weapon upgrade, so we might as well grab the weapon upgrade first. So we're just using magnets to pull blocks, put them onto switches. Not too big a deal. The trick to this one is to set up the bottom block, as you can see. If we use that as a backstop, we can pull the top left block across. Otherwise, it just hits the drink and respawns. That's no good. Now we're up to our second enemy type, Choctopuses. I don't actually know if that's their name. If that's not their name, that should have been their name. And the Choctopuses are magnetically inclined, so we just use magnetism to pull them up, and then we hit their cores. In this room, we just have to do another little puzzle, but luckily, all we have to do to pull it off is move a block very slowly around the room. Not a big deal. Not a very difficult one. In this room, you're supposed to move a condensed ball around to hit the thing with magnetism several times. Or you could ride on top of it. You can do whichever one you want. That one's faster. We're just going to set up using more magnets, the positionings of this one block to get it to a switch at the end. So getting very good at this section of the game is all about, in essence, how fast can you press the hail flurry button, the dash button, and just move. So this fight is against a bunch of slimes and a bunch of screaming fish. The big thing about the slimes to keep in mind is that if there are two or more slimes around, they can come together and throw a ball of wave at your face, which is a problem because they don't take any damage while they're doing it. Your goal is to make sure there's no more than one slime left as fast as possible. Otherwise, you have to sit there while they do their thing. It's slow. In this next room, we're just going to have to... Now we've moved blocks around with magnets. Now we got to move block around with magnets. That's what the cool kids do. They ride their blocks. You might see a little treasure chest back there. That's a sneaky shiv. Very sneaky. Very shiv. That's our next weapon upgrade. It's quite good. We're going to be using it for a while. Now we picked up a key. What you're supposed to do with this key is unlock the locked door you saw in the room with the very small, with the slow-moving block puzzle. Instead, we're going to ride on top of that block. So all we're going to do is set ourselves in position, so a ricochet shot is going to hit the magnet, and then Simp's just going to use Sphere Storm to get up where it's going to end up. That is a tight trick. You will then long jump over the wall, and we save the key. Saving the key allows us to skip a couple puzzles later and a fight later. So now we have the screaming fish and the shoctopuses. One thing to keep in mind about the screaming fish is those little attacks, their ranged attacks they're using. That and their scream can mark you. And if you're marked, both the scream and the little ranged attack do bonus damage. So it can get bad. In this next room, you're supposed to do a bunch of puzzles, but we can skip all of it. So we're going to use a corner jump plus a long jump to get around the side here. This jump is actually pretty hard. Then Sim's going to set up the block so he can jump over the barrier with, once again, Spear Storm. Then jump, long jump, and there you go. And that's the north path. Now it's time to do the south path. So first we have an actual puzzle we're going to do. I don't know what that was.
Got a little bit confused there. Don't worry about it.
So we have to set up a circuit. There's some nice little indents in the wall for the circuit, but, you know, there are other ways to make it work. Just time your throw. Now we have some we got some wave plants. Turns out they're weak to fire, you know, plants. They're not so bad. And then we have some more screaming fish. After the screaming fish, we're going to be seeing the last enemy type of this section, which are the manta rays. But we're not going to fight it quite yet. We'll fight it soon. Because normally we'd have to fight him and deal with stuff to the right to get the key for this door. But, you know, we already have the key. We picked it up earlier. So here we're going to skip half of this puzzle, because it turns out you can just use the candle to hit the switch. You don't actually need to tap. Now the puzzles upgrade to a little more active timing puzzles. We have to set up 2 condensed falls, and we have to make sure to pop the ice blocks at just the right time, or the water blocks, so that 2 things get hit at the same time. Alright, so now we're going to actually fight the first manta ray. The way the manta rays work is you have to zap them with the lightning rod in the center. And otherwise they stay underground and you can't hurt them. If you don't kill them while they're above ground, they'll dive back underground and start to... They are a pain in the butt if you're not, you know, dealt with fast. Alright, we have completed the final puzzle that we're doing for this dungeon. The south path. Now it's time for the gauntlet. The gauntlet is a 3-part fight. We're going to be fighting all 3 of those enemy types we've already discussed. First up, we got Screaming Fish. We're going to be adding slime to the mix. So fish and slime, you know, part of a average breakfast. Sim just needs to be careful not to take too much damage and not to overload himself. Luckily, during Vermilion, the game actually gave us some healing items. So, worst case scenario, we do have access to a couple of healers. As a reminder, whenever you throw a ranged attack through the elemental orb, or in this case the lightning orb, your ranged attack becomes little pellets of that ranged attack. So if he used his fire breath ability, the fire stream would just become basically a bunch of little lightning bolts. The hail flurry becomes little for each of the hail flurries. And that's why we use hail flurry, because it's faster than throwing one ball at a time. Final part of the gauntlet, we just have the manta rays, we have the screaming fish, and then we're going to have a gauntlet of slimes. And the big thing with the gauntlet of slimes at the end is to make sure that we kill all of them fast enough that there's never more than 1 or 2 on the screen at a time. If we do, then they can start doing their charge attack, and that will just waste time. All right. So that's the end of the shock gauntlet. Well, the wave gauntlet. And it gives us access to shock. We did it. Now, normally you're supposed to do the second half of the dungeon, but that sounds slow, so we're not going to do that. Instead, we're just going to leave. And we're going to go do the first half of the shock temple to go get the wave element. So here's the power plant. Turns out the lightning temple, you know, was part of what's being used for the power generation here. So in the shock temple, we're introduced to wave. Wave does a lot of weird stuff, so let me explain. Wave, if you throw a ball of wave, one of these little green spots, you teleport to them. If you throw a condensed ball of wave, so those are going to be the waves, like we had those big shock blocks, we're going to have big wave balls. The wave balls go through walls, and they go through walls perpendicular to however they enter the wall, to the wall surface. In essence, if you throw it at a diagonal wall, it's going to turn itself and go out of that wall at a 90-degree angle. So understanding those two principles will get you to understand a lot of how things are going to work. And we combine these things together. So here we're going to see the first condensed wave ball. Turn it on with, you know, a hail flurry to make enough little balls. And we're going to throw it through the fence, and then it goes in there and turns off the shock, because they're opposite elements. It goes into 45-degree angles, turns itself perpendicular, goes through. Okay? So that's how it works. We're introduced to our second enemy type, which are the shock plants. We hit them with fire, they die. If not, they start using their arms and they jump around and they're pain. The first enemy types are the cute little doggobots. I don't know their actual names, so I'm calling them doggobots. The doggobots don't take that much damage to kill, but if they start charging up their laser, you have to hit a teleporter. And if you teleport, they lose sight of you, and that's when you can break them. But they gain massive damage resistance while they're aiming, and like you can see here, and it's just slower. So we use fire on the plants, because plants, fire, you know. And then we use ice on the other ones because ice, I don't know. Robots are weak to ice. Let's just roll with it, okay? So now we get access to teleporting blocks. So the way the teleporting blocks are is you hit them with a wave ball. Then if that ball bounces into a teleporter, the block teleports. Nice and easy. There are several skips in this room. This is the newest one. Fortunately, Tim missed it and doesn't have the energy to try again. By energy, I mean P. He's going to do the older skip. Look how difficult that skip was. It didn't even use a long jump. Instead, we jump up here and enter the puzzle from the roll. Then we use a tight little corner throw there, as you saw, to get to the correct entrance, which turns the puzzle on. And now we're going to go through it the correct way. So the rest of this section here is actually how it was intended to be done. Just we came in from the wrong spot. So the next enemy we're going to fight are the ghosts. The ghosts suck. The only way to hurt the ghosts is to throw something through a wave ball, a wave bubble, and then hope to kill it before it does its annoying. Which you did. Nice. They can dash at you, annoying. They can melee you, also annoying. Or they can put themselves behind a wall, and you have to throw a condensed wave ball through other walls to hit them with it, and knock them out of it. It's just a pain in the butt and slow, so we try to kill it before it can do it. So here we're going to use another trick. Once again, Spear Storm. But done a little different. See, in Spear Storm, you can't be interrupted from what you're doing. But you can when you're eating. And you can interrupt your Spear Storm to start eating. Therefore, when we get high enough, we start eating, get hit by the machine gun. The machine gun knocks us out of the eat animation into the direction we're getting hit into, and boom. The puzzles in this room here, since solved in 2 seconds. Casually, that may have taken you quite a lot. But we did it legit. Just, you know, once you know the solution, not so bad. So we're almost done in here. We have one more puzzle we're solving. We're solving it correctly. We're just double stacking our blocks. And the only reason we double stack them is we're trying to get a block over the final platform, as you can see. Turns out, of course, you don't actually need to bring it the whole way. You can long jump. And there you go. So now we're in the Wave Gauntlet. Wave Gauntlet is, well, the Shock Gauntlet to get Wave. This is done similarly to how the Wave Gauntlet was done. 3 tiers of enemies, each of the enemies we've seen so far. First one's not so bad. Second one starts with the little doggo bots. And the reason I call them that's their name. It's the way the sounds they make. The next sequence of them is going to have 2 doggo bots and a parrot. But if you throw enough steel balls at them, you can kill them all. Good trick. Next section is 3 more doggo bots and then 2 ghosts. The big thing is Simp needs to make sure he ends with about 4.5 to 5 meter after this is all done to do the next trick, because if he doesn't, he has to go waste time farming. Nobody wants. That's the wall I'm talking about. You have to basically break them out of it that way, but you also have somebody hound. Alright, so Simp's built up enough meter, so he's good there. Now he just needs to A, not die, and B, kill them. So, he's going to go grab wave power. Great, wonderful. Now you're supposed to beat both bosses, do a quest, and unlock the second part of the dungeon. Or, you can take advantage of the fact that Blazing Dragon allows us to keep our height while we move, and that this bridge is slightly high, the same plane as that cliff. Boom. You stay on that diagonal, and then you can just start to move yourself over there, and on top, around and skip both bosses and that quest. Move right into Grand Crigio. So in Grand Crigio, you're supposed to do all sorts of stuff by going around these 2 areas, going up and going to the left, completing puzzles to unlock switches on the top left and top right. We're not doing any of that crap. Then we're going to trigger that first. Lower it down. When it goes up, we swap sides. We have a second ball ready to go, lowering it down. Long jump, and we're done. We're going to do the exact same thing on the wave side, but since waves also sit on walls, we have to do a very nicely timed bank shot. Boss coming up is that ape you saw. We're going to beat him with the power of lightning. We are going to grab a melee art called Battery Assault and a ranged art called Radiant Swarm. Battery Assault locks an enemy in place and does a bunch of damage. Radiant Swarm hits an enemy with a giant ball that then becomes a ton of little balls, and the littlest balls do a ton of damage. The problem is, once you phase the boss by breaking one of those health bars, he takes greatly reduced damage and goes away. What we're going to do is hit him with the Radiant Swarm to start the Radiant attack. Then we're going to use Battery Assault to hold him in place long enough for all of those little balls to hit him. And if we do it right, combined with the equipment we have and the blazing buns and the cheese crackers that we got at the beginning of the game, we should get A, enough critical hits, and B, do enough damage that he gets killed in one cycle. So, Ape's not that difficult. He just dashes at us. We try to perfect guard it because we don't have damage. He puts up a shield of lightning. We're going to use wave to break it. This also allows us to build the meter to do the trick. We need 6 meter. We break him, switch to lightning, hit him a couple times. Radiant Swarm comes out. Then we press the Battery Assault. All the little balls hit. He gets zapped by a ton of lightning. And he's done. We got a few crits, but you know, at the end of the day, close enough. Second half of the temple. We're not going to do either of these. That was a nice jump. We are not going to do either of these correctly. We're going to do our only clip of the run. We are going to use that wave block, and we basically shoot that angle. At the same time that it hits the teleportation, we grab it, and it puts us on the side, but we can also go up and down for some reason. Nice and easy. For the second one, we're going to use long jumps to jump up top and end up at the top of this puzzle instead of where we're supposed to end up, which is hitting a switch at the top to get to the bottom door. So we're using long jumps, corner jump, grab the key there, and then we are also going to enter through the exit and go over and grab the time worn belt. This little jump around this barrier, you're supposed to do that. There's no other way to get that. That's intended. We save and quit to go back to the entrance we came in, because otherwise the only way out of that room is through the entrance. But if you go through the entrance, it starts the fight that's supposed to happen. So now we're up to the final puzzle of Gran Crucio. This is another one of those timed puzzles that I mentioned before. Sim's just going to lead a little wave ball along. He's going to use the wave block there, barriers, and then he's going to have a shock block go across in order to also take down the blue barrier so the ball can go the whole way. Next up is the boss. We're going to fight the ape again, but he also is going to have a friend. It's the ape and whale fight. So we're going to try to 2-cycle this fight. We're going to try to do whale in 2 cycles. Ape is done the exact same way he's done the first time. The way the whale works is we're going to throw shock attacks at him until he breaks. When he breaks, he's going to summon a short little puzzle. I bet you can figure out the solution to this puzzle. Ape throws a shock blast, we trigger the puzzle, and then we just break him. Nothing crazy. When the ape comes down, we're going to do the exact same thing we did the first time. We're going to break his shock barrier by throwing attacks at him. And then we are going to use our Radiant Swarm Battery Assault combo. We just have to hit him quite a few more times before we throw the Radiant Swarm. If we get enough crits, he'll die. If we don't, alright, it's not the end of the world. So now we just get a slower fight. Basically, we're gonna have to do 2 cycles. We're gonna have to do the whale, all 3 of the whales with bars, as opposed to being able to kill the whale in 1 more cycle. Is what it is. Whale is also a missile machine. We can't hit him while he's dashing across the screen. I don't know. We can. Alright, so now the whale's down again. This time our puzzle's a little more complicated. There's a hole in the puzzle. We gotta fill in the gaps. What we're gonna try to do is basically do the same combo we've been doing against...
Oh, that's a task-only thing. Back up.
Oh man, you pulled that off. Perfect. Wow, I've never actually seen that happen. Normally what happens is he goes invulnerable enough that you have to re-break him, but he'll break like immediately and you just have to do the second. If you get just like literally like frame-ish perfect timing, you can do him in 1 cycle there. So that ended up actually being about as fast as he can. And that's Ape and Whale. Alright, so next section of the game is called Sapphire. So the way Sapphire Ridge is supposed to go, you go meet Samurai, Bug Samurai. Mr. Bug Samurai tells you, oh, you need to complete a bunch of trials, and I'll give you the meteor shade. And we say, okay, sure, whatever you say, Bug. We're not going to do that. Instead, what we're going to do is we are going to go collect the Warkeeper, which is one of our endgame sword. And after we collect our endgame sword, we are going to use another moon jump to skip the entirety of Sapphire. So if you have any donations, we'll walk over to get them. Now's the time. Alright, so the way Sapphire Ridge goes is that the samurai in here, or these bug samurai, are all lightning and fire element. And ooh, that almost one-shot you. And the way we used to do it is we'd go through each of the trials legitimately, and then for the boss we would just press Ether Snipe on him, which is a tier 3 ether ability, wave ability, and that would be the end of that. Unfortunately, Ether Sight doesn't get as much time to shine in the run nowadays, but that's okay. So we're going to go fight with the Warkeeper fight, and the Warkeeper is just a weapon that's hidden behind several samurai. So first, Tim's going to go pick up the lead boots, which are our boot upgrade that we haven't gotten boots in ages. Nice and easy. Then he'll equip his boots, put on the time-worn vest that he picked up. That was that vest I was telling you about that we jumped around for. It's entirely a defensive item, but at some point we actually have to accept that we're going to get hurt and we need to be protected. So he's just going to take out these guys. Normally you have buddies for this, so the lack of buddies just makes it so much rougher. But he's got them. Good work. And this gives us access to the Warkeeper. It's basically our last sword we're going to buy. Second to last sword we're going to buy. I think you still have one weapon equipped.
Nope.
Okay. Alright, so we're going to trigger, he's going to hit somebody and trigger our pink bugs. Pink bugs are, as I said, they are shock-based, so we need to get shocked. He's going to perfect guard the red one like you saw, and the reason for that is simply doesn't want to take extra damage. Okay. So he's jolted. He's going to hit a bug, keep himself in combat, so the jolt doesn't immediately wear off, because status elements wear off as soon as you're out of combat, because that would be mean, and the developer's not mean. Grabs this, brings it right up to the barrier. Does his Blizzard Hawk, and oh god! And that's the end of Sapphire Ridge. I hope you enjoyed. Alright, so now you may remember this dream sequence section from much earlier in the run, where you saw Leah in this area. We're now just going through that same section, we actually made it there, and we have to go through a particular pathing. As long as we go through this path, we'll unlock the next fight, which is the fight against Shizuka. So the fight against Shizuka is the last fight of the run. And it's going to work similar to the Apollo fights, except Shizuka has all of her elements of it to her, all 4 of them. And she'll swap between them. Also, she takes more damage. And she's just, like, more annoying to deal with. So the way we're going to handle her is we're going to let her swap from her fire phase to her ice phase, because she always goes fire, ice, lightning, wave. So we're going to let her go from fire to ice. And then we are just going to blazing jab her face as much as possible. That's basically the idea.
All right.
Just jab her in the goddamn face with all the fire. After we beat her in her ice phase, she will immediately swap over to her lightning, because that's the alternation she does. If you beat her in fire, she'll go to lightning, or it goes to wave. If you beat her in ice, she'll go to lightning, and vice versa. And we want her to be doing that alternation because we're going to be using fire to beat the ice phase, and we're going to be using wave to beat the ice phase, or lightning phase. If Tim can actually finish her, otherwise she's going to switch again. Now she's in lightning phase. He's going to try to perfect guard her, and then just do tier 2 Spirit Blast into an immediate keep strike. And he's just going to repeat that cycle for a grand total of 6 wins. So we have to beat the way the Shizuka fight works is you have to get 12 points in order to end it. Every time you win, you get 2. Every time you lose, you get 1. So if you lose, you have to lose a lot. But for winning that first bout and winning the second bout, which we win by the one fight we have to, we get 4 levels. 61 health, 6 attack, a lot of stats. A lot of stats. And that's Shizuka. Now we have the exposition theater part of the run, where we actually realize the game needs a plot again.
I do not want to make anyone panic, but we're on world record pace by 2 minutes.
You're actually on proper pace? Nice.
Yep.
I'll keep it up or die in, the raid, and you won't have to worry about it.
This has been a insanely good run.
No, it has been. This has been very. You've had only like a couple of flubs that were several seconds, if anything.
Yeah.
You actually have your splits running?
Yep.
All right. So the story at this point is we want to save all the evil, which are those AIs that Satoshi made. We also learned that the Satoshi who we ran into there, who's the guy, is dead. He died at the beginning of the game. But he died of like a heart condition. No foul play. But he's dead. And he made himself an AI, which is cool. People like that. But we want to save all those AIs, confirm Vermilion. And the only way we're going to do that is we got to launch a full-scale attack on them. So our plan is to go over there, and using some hackery that Sergey and Satoshi have put together, we're going to crash the server that the Evotars are actually housed on, and then we're going to download all the data, and then I don't know what we're going to do with it, but hey, we have it. Now we do our final shopping of the run. We're going to buy ourselves a laser weapon, because that's better than what we were using. We're also going to buy a bunch of really overpowered food items. So we're going to buy Rising Superstars, Molstashes, Werewolf Sticks, Virion. We need more Rising Stars.
No, it's a different, because we're using Eternal Winter, it's all melees, so we get more spicy beetle types.
Right, typos. Okay. So we bought ourselves a bunch of overpowered food items for the final boss. Well, I'll explain. The final boss is very nuanced in how we put it all together, but we'll get to it.
Sloa, I still said that the good ending is still not incentive.
It continues not to be an incentive, despite as much as slow as, Manning.
It's much too late to get it now.
Broken. I think we're planning to take the hard drive from the server. I don't know exactly. I don't remember. I haven't done the text in a while. All right, so let's go raid Vermilion. So the way the Vermilion raid works is the enemies, shredders will constantly respawn. And every time we beat a shredder, it will hover for a while. And what we do with these hovering shredders is we have to push them into the Evotars, NPC. And then they get captured in a cage. We then have to zap that cage with a giant laser. You'll see the laser. That's trying to actually kill us. But we lure the laser onto the Evotars, and then they get fixated. If we fixate all of the Evotars, then the server's going to crash. So that's the goal. So these are the shredders. The first area, we're not in the actual raid yet. These are the shredders. You can see they're elemental shredders. One type for each element. They have an attack where they just smack you with their element. And they have a shield they can put up on their buddies. And the shield does different things depending on their element. The wave guys heal, the shock guys... the ice ones are a pure shield, the fire ones just deal damage to you, and the shock ones, I don't know. I don't think I've ever really seen it do anything. Alright. So, time for everyone's favorite laser show. Let's go.
I'm actually going to turn my companions to do nothing so the shredders stay aggroed onto me. So I can make this a little bit more consistent.
You can see we beat up the shredder, we threw it at the guy. And when next time the laser comes down, on him. That's one. We have to do that 10 times in this room. 10 times in the first two rooms and 6 times. You can see there's the laser. So initially there's only 4 Evotars in here. Our buddies are helping to locate the rest of them. 3. One big thing about routing and dealing with the raid is that any shredder who's in its vulnerable fixation routine mode, when a cutscene starts introducing more Evotars, goes away. So if you've got a shredder that's almost dead that you're working with, it is a major time loss to you if you accidentally finish it off, basically. Which you really don't want to. You get healing each time you get one of these guys zapped with the laser. So, and our healing item at this point heals half our health, and we have the passive that increases that. So we can heal to full very quickly. we have it going a little awry. But this, of course, can also go south really, really fast. The goal is to waste as few lasers as possible. For the first room, that's not so hard because every laser is a laser. But starting in the second room, the thing will cycle into lasers we cannot use to fixate, in which case we lose even more time. Then it goes around that case the long way to trigger the correct side. Alright, we only got one more. Alright, so we wasted one laser, it's not the end of the world. Alright, so one or two lasers were wasted. Not that big. Alright, room 1 done. Let's go to room 2. So in room 2, like I said, they're going to start introducing a we can't work with. And that's just going to be the dodge laser. It has a different sound effect when it's being charged. Otherwise, the route's going to be that draw at the top left, and we're going to head all the way over to the top right. So part of the routing for this section is, since you don't start with all of the guys on the field, you do have to be careful as to who you do when, until you have to back. Alright, we got her. This releases 2. We're going to head down and around, deal with the next set of guys. You lose that laser, what you going to do? Not that bad. Alright, so the next guy, you can see him up on that little cliff.
One of them spawned bad.
Oh well. Poor dude. So they get the guy who's on the little cliff, we just jump at it. 63. Alright, we got the last.
For a small donation.
Yeah, go for it.
Anonymous has donated $10 saying, this run is so fun to watch. And I have to agree, Anonymous. Carry on.
Yep. Alright, so we've got 3 more to go. And now, if you remember, we set up a that switch much earlier in the run. Useful for this section too. The girl in the middle is roughing because the only way up here is to follow that path of laser in here. And if you get the bad laser while you're doing it, you're going to take extra damage and now you're in a confined state. All things can be a bit tough. Alright, only 2 to go. Our last guy is hovering over to the right. If you would just walk right for that, dead. Alright, so now our task is just not to die. Wait. And wait. There we go. Alright, so that's room 2. Room 3 is a little different. In room 3, all the evil cards are protected by a barrier. And the only way to break that barrier is to use special hack shredders. But we don't have hack shredders yet. So first we have to find out there's a problem. Berserker has realized the issue. Now we know there's a problem, he's going to try to solve it. But we're also all alone. That's not so fun. But first we need second we need our buddy. Buddy, please. So we have Shizuka. She's just going to hang around. So we're not lonely. Nice of her. And then Sergey...
She's helping.
He exists. He's helping. Alright, so the hack's out. And the way the hack works is one shredder can be hacked at a time. When that shredder pops, the next shredder to spawn will get the mark. Well, if there's a shredder spawn, he'll get the mark, and if not, the next shredder will spawn. You need to use a hack shredder to get rid of the barrier, but you don't need to use it to break the guys who are without barriers. As you can see, we got one of them completely unlocked. That's it. Next laser he's going to use to trigger it. And he can go after immediately the nearest shredder because whether or not it's the hack shredder doesn't matter. So this is a simple pattern we're going to be using for the rest. Throw the hack shredder at the guys. Got a new hack shredder. Break that hack shredder. Rip these. We've probably been noticing that Tim's been alternating his elements constantly to make sure that he's hitting the shredders with what they're weak to. If you don't do that, they're not so fast. Wow, you went for rescue shot. Alright, we only need to use one more hack shredder and one regular shredder, and we are done. Overall, this was a pretty good raid. Definitely be better, a little better. Pretty much what you want. Alright, so now we've crashed the server. We're gonna go get the data, except it turns out and the reason we had to crash it is because we didn't want him to delete all the data. That's what we expected would be done if we wiped remotely. It turns out the plan to wipe remotely was actually just to drop the floor out from under the server and make it break. Physical trauma. We weren't expecting that. But Gotham took control of this area since, he worked with the bad guy to set this all up, and has offered us a challenge. Climb the Vermilion Tower to the top, beat me in a fight, and I'll give you access to the server. The response is, okay. So we are going to go take on Gotham's challenge. And Gotham's challenge is a 4-story puzzle tower with fights. We are going to do so few of these puzzles legitimately, it's kind of hilarious. So the big mechanic we're going to be using is Wave Decoy. Wave Decoy is a Tier 1 dash art in the Wave element that leaves behind a version of Leah that all enemies will target. These turrets here target Leah and don't turn on unless Leah is a certain level of close to them. They target the Wave Decoy, like the Wave Decoy was in fact Leah. So, So we're going to leave the Wave Decoy far enough away that the turrets don't turn on. Unfortunately, we can't do that in this particular room. There's no way to get far enough away. So what we can do instead is set up a glitch time. Glitch time is a Tier 2 guard art in electric, and if you take damage, if you guard damage with it, time stops for a few seconds. We're going to use the mine you're supposed to use as part of this puzzle. We're going to shoot it ourselves and glitch time it. The time stops, we can actually force ourselves through those turrets. Drop our decoy and move on. These are the elemental turrets. What you're supposed to do is break them. They produce a medallion. The medallion makes you immune to that element. You can then get close enough to them and melee them. What Sim's going to do is do that, except get them kind of close to dying, and then shoot it so hard in the face, it dies. That's skipping the second half of the fight. They just took too much damage. Second one, again, drop the Wave Decoy. The medallion we pick up at the beginning allows us to be immune to that color. Second room, Wave Decoy. Now we deal with the ice turret. Ice turret's gonna be done the exact same way. We're gonna break it, take its ice medallion, get immune to its elements, get it kind of close, and then he uses the Tier 3 dash art, and boom. Now, if you remember earlier in the game, we had to deal. Now they're back. This time, we're strong enough to actually fight them. Break it, honk, and then we beat the crap out of it. They're not that hard. Next turret up is going to, next up is the actual puzzle we do in here. We can't skip this one. We tried. Watch in amazement as Synth throws balls very quickly. I hope you were amazed. We're then going to douse the fire. The Malware of ice. And then we'll Wave Decoy to get to the actual turret. Alright, so the lightning turret, like every lightning game, is obnoxious and terrible. Once again, you have to get the medallion. Once you get the medallion, you're going to get close enough to one-shot it. Boom. So, part of the reason we can do that in Wave is because Wave has special nodes that are called Berserk. And Berserk node says if you're in critical HP, you do extra damage. And, well, we'll get ourselves low enough so we can be in critical HP, we can do extra damage. This trick is neat. There's just the right angle to pull that off. Now we have the wave turret. The wave turret, we do the same way as we're actually supposed to do it, because lightning doesn't come with anything that hits hard enough.
I actually almost killed it.
Yeah, almost got it. Yeah, that's the only problem with lightning. It doesn't really come with anything that hits hard enough in one blast, so it goes invulnerable. So we're actually got to do this one legit. What you're supposed to do is now break it again, and so you have to do the puzzle on the right. However, if you just make a second medallion appear, it'll appear in the first spot if you break it early enough, and we don't have to bother with the puzzle. Alright, so now we have the second set of shredders. We're going to beat up these guys, and then a ghost is going to spawn, and we're going to introduce it to Ether Snipe. Say hello to the snipe. Goodbye. Ether Snipe just does too much damage. Now we fight all 4 turrets in succession. We're going to beat them all the way you saw us do them individually. Going to one cycle every single turret. When you blow up a turret, it spawns the medallion that it would normally spawn for you to continue the rotation. Because eventually you do kill them. And because that's the way we do it, well, we can just immediately pick it up. The previous one's still there. And there you go. That's the turrets. We're now up to the final puzzle of the game. It's big, it's long, it's not that hard. Using all the elements, take the ball on a trip. Each section of this is very well delineated. It's not really that big a deal. No part of this puzzle is too tight other than the warp section right here at the end. So we step on that to open the door. As soon as the ball gets through, we're going to shoot a bank shot through. You basically only have one shot to make that shot. All right, and that's the end of that puzzle. Now we have the final gauntlet. The final gauntlet is just a bunch of shredders, then a rhino, a bunch of shredders, then a ghost, a bunch of shredders, and we're done. So I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you about the final boss, because the boss has 16 health bars, 3 distinct types of phases, and I don't have a lot of time to talk about it. So, the way the final boss is going to work is we are going to use a werewolf stick, which increases our SP regeneration, and a durian to help give us enough damage to pull off what we need to pull off. And what we're going to do is we are going to build up these 6 meter, before we break him the first time. And after we break him, and then phase him, he's going to do a move where he slams on the ground and breaks part of the stage. When he breaks part of the stage, if you hit him with an ether snipe, he'll take normal damage, not reduced damage, which he normally takes as soon as you phase him. And with that normal damage, we can actually phase him yet again. We'll then do the next phase of the fight legitimate, breaking him as normal. And then we will use an ether snipe to skip the next phase. We will then do the exact same thing immediately after to skip the next phase as well. So 2 phases will be skipped in a row. Then he'll spawn himself in a orb just like the turrets have, and we're going to need to break him to spawn a medallion, and then take the spawned medallion to break him. And then we're going to have to break him another time, and to phase that level of HP, and use another pair of ether snipe. Alright. That sounds like a lot, but I want you to have an idea of what I'm saying, so when you see it happen, it makes sense. Need your stick?
Yep.
Alright, Gotham 1. We need to go through 8 phases before we swap to the next part of the fight. We need 6 meter by the time we phase his HP. Thanks to the werewolf stick, that's not a problem. We're almost there already. There we go. So now we have enough meter. So we're good on meter. He's gonna hop. Now we ether snipe his face. And look, an entire bar disappeared. That's phase 2. Now we do phase 3 legit. Gotta break him with wave. We also need to have 12 meter by the time we break him. By the time. The werewolf stick continues to be important. And we have to make sure to also do enough damage to actually HP phase it. A bit tight. Not super tight, but a bit tight. Okay. Now we snipe him. By the way, the ether snipe here is actually a pretty tight move. If you ether snipe him too late, he will disappear and appear for the next phase halfway through the damage animation. And if that happens, he's invulnerable. This is the orb phase. We're going to need to break that with ice. It'll spawn a medallion. Now the medallion is formed, he just needs to melee him enough time to break. Now that he's broken, we just return to our regularly scheduled programming. You have to build up 12 meter, and then break him and HP phase him. We should be good on meter, it looks like.
Yep. 100% though.
HP phased, we have the meter, 2 ether snipes, and we're done. Ether snipe him one more time. We're actually lucky the damage works out as well because we barely, but we'll consistently phase him here.
Oh, he takes reduced damage once his phase gets phased. So it could do a lot more damage if he wasn't taking reduced damage after that.
All right, final boss fight. This fight has 2 different distinct phases. The way it works is we want to break his fist. Break his fist. He goes to meditate. We break his nose. When we break his nose, we get to whack him in the face. All right, not so bad. We want to multi-phase this fight. He takes reduced damage as soon as he HP phases. We got to hit him hard to make that happen. Don't worry, we can do that. So what we're going to do is almost break him next time he gives us an opportunity. And after we almost break him, he's going to swap over to the fire element, because this is the ice-fire pairing phase. When he swaps over to fire, he becomes ice, which is exactly what we would like him to be. So Simp is going to get himself in Berserk range, which we need to... Nice.
Critical.
That's critical, all right. He's now going to use Eternal Winter. Eternal Winter is the strongest tier 3 ice damage ability. And there he double phases. So the big thing about that, technically triple phases. So the big thing about it is he swaps over to wave while the winter is cast, and the way the game figures out how much damage it's going to do is what you are in currently. So because we're in wave, Berserk's applying even though the move that's coming out is ice based. So he's going to do that 2 more times. So this is the second half of the fight. You can see in the top right corner, you can see the boss HP and the attack X numbers. We need to break these little guys that appear during certain parts of the fight in order to make those numbers line up. If they don't, we're not going to be able to hurt him because I'm doing 512 times damage, but he has 2,048 times HP. That's just where we don't do damage. So now we do the correct amount of damage. We're in Berserk mode. We have our food buffs on. We're getting near the HP threshold. And we press the Eternal Winter button.
Woohoo!
And we get into the last phase. Very nice.
You need some of those hits needs to be a crit in order to get to the last phase. That doesn't happen very often. That's actually rare. You need one of those hits in Internal Winter to be a crit to get this far.
If you don't, whether or not you skip to the final phase, the next time you break him will be the end because you will double phase no matter what. However, the final phase is faster than the shock phase right before it. And all he does here is he spits all the elements into face. And that's a lot faster than the whole sequence that you saw of a little bit of puzzle, punching a bunch. It's quicker. So you want that to happen.
Looks like we're having climactic finish for this run, boys.
He could just wave decoy here and all of the abilities wave decoy instead of Leah, and it would be 100% free. But you know, he likes to live dangerously.
Time!